18-year-old Ashley Desi is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old Matthew Strupp, for a loan to make a car payment. Matthew claims he's been too sickly to pay the money back.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 306 on the calendar in the matter of Desi versus Stroop. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Desi, you know this young man from high school, is that right?
Yeah, we dated.
How old are you now?
I'm 19.
What do you do?
I work for my parents as a secretary, but I'm a full-time student.
Where are you a student?
At Cal State University, Bakersfield.
What about you, Mr. Stroop?
I actually work at a cotton gin. I do manual labor, and I go to school at BC.
What is BC?
Bakersfield College.
Who do you live with, Mr. Stroop?
My mother.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
Miss Desi's complaint says that she loaned you $270 that you said you needed in order to pay for a car payment for a car that belongs to your mother. You know each other from high school, so I assume you know each other for several years.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you're just friends?
Yes.
How did it come about, Mr. Stroop, that Miss Desi knew about your need for $270?
I came to a tough spot in my life.
Just a second. Just tell me how she found out that you needed $270.
I texted her and asked her if she would like to do me a favor.
What date did you text her?
I do not remember the exact date.
You remember?
It was between June 20th and June 22nd.
I'd like you to remember as closely as you can the words that you used when you text messaged Miss Desi.
I said, "Do you want to help me out?" And she said, "What?" And I said, "You want to give me $200?" And I was joking around by saying so. And she said,
No,
"Let
okay.
me think about
No,
it."
just one second. You said to her in the text, "Do you want to give me $270? I'm just joking around."
I put,
Or is that what we call editorializing?
I put JK at the end of it, which would be an abbreviation for just joking.
JK is just joking.
Yes. Just
You
kidding.
better stay in Bakersfield.
Always.
What?
JK is just joking.
Well, right. That's why I told him he's got to stay in school. Just stay in school. Okay. So what happened next?
She told me that she would give me the money, and
Now, did she tell that to you text messaging, or did she speak to you on the phone?
she texted me.
That I'll give you the money.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
She told me to meet her at her parents' office, which I did. She handed me the money and said, "There you go." I said, "Thank you, and I will try to make it up to you." And she said, "Okay, whatever."
What did that mean to you, Mr. Stroop? I'll try to make it up to you.
Meaning, if I can do anything to pay back in any way, I would, because I hate borrowing money. There was no agreement or payment plan
No. Don't tell me. I make the judgments as to what the bottom line is. So you took the money and you said to her, "I will try to make this up to you."
Yes.
How much money did she give you?
She gave me $270.
And what did you need the money for?
Insurance on my vehicle.
Did you tell her that that's what you needed the money
Yes.
for? I thought you needed it for your mother's car.
No, it was for my car.
Okay. Now, Miss Desi, tell me about your conversation that you had with him between the 20th and the 22nd of June, either texting or in person.
He texted me saying he needed to borrow money for, I believe he said in it, a car payment, and then I think I ended up calling him.
And what was the conversation, if you remember?
What I do remember is pretty much like, what do you need the money for? And, you know, when will you be able to pay me back?
And what did he say about paying you back?
He said he just started a new job, that he was going to be getting his first check around June 30th, a week and a half later, and then he'd pay me out of that check.
So then he came to your office and picked up the money?
Yes.
Did you give it to him in cash?
Yes, I gave him $270 cash, but before even handing it to him, I made sure that, you know, he agreed to pay me back.
Okay. Who is this person?
That would be a character witness on my behalf, because he's been around when it all happened.
Oh, good. Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Chad Johnston.
At what point in this transaction did you make an appearance?
That night, me and Matt hung out.
Which night?
The night that she loaned him the money.
Thank you. You may have a seat. See how good that was?
Yeah.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $270.
She's gonna excuse you. They step out.
I think that, you know, she just wants to have control over something, and this is the only way she can find to do it.
Matt just was making up a lot of excuses.
There are no excuses. She know I don't work during summer because I have a hole in my lung and I have valley fever.
Told me that, you know, he was going to be dying from some illness. It's called smoking and drinking.
The most upsetting part about it is that the case got, you know, dismissed and settled because of a word.
Loaned.
The word that ended it was loan.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hill versus Trasati Doherty, step forward, please.
23-year-old twins, Brian and Rodney Hill, are suing former beach house roommates Samantha Trasati and Natalie Doherty for unpaid rent.
Who's Mr. Hill? Both of you. Hill. Who's going to speak for the Hill brothers?
I'll start.
Okay, tell me your first name.
Brian.
Brian, where do you live?
I live in New York.
And where was this share house that you rented?
It was in Dewey Beach, Delaware.
All right, so this is the situation. You and your brother decided to rent a summer house and go something like this. You rent the house for how much?
It was around $20,000.
Not around. Give me the figure.
It was $20,350.
You have a contract?
I have the lease.
I'd like to see it. $19,845. Where's $20,350?
Oh, well, it was just what the taxes and stuff they added on the lease.
I want to see the lease. This isn't the lease.
That's the best thing they could give us for showing. That shows the dates that we had the payments due and that kind of stuff. That's the best thing the realtor could provide us to bring here.
How old are you, Brian?
I'm 23.
Brian, you have a lease agreement. This is not a lease agreement. Nobody rented you their house for $20,000, young man, without giving you a lease. A lease indicating what the rental was, how many people you were allowed to have there, what the term was from when to when. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Brian?
I do. That's the best thing we could get.
Well, that's too bad. You come back when you get something else. Thank you.
Is that excused? You may step out.
Wow.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So this teaches you a very good lesson. When you come to court, you don't come to court with your ostensible good looks. You come to court with evidence. And not irritate me. It's a very bad thing to irritate me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian and Rodney Hill claim former beach house roommates Samantha Trasati and Natalie Doherty owe for unpaid rent. The defendants claim the brothers are being greedy.
All right, Mr. Hill, I understand from my clerk that you now have a completed lease. I'd like to see it, please. Have you ever been to court before, Brian?
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
When I was 16, I was in court for driving without insurance.
Did your parents go with you?
Yes.
Being cautious with your answers. And when they went with you for insurance, did they bring the insurance card with them?
Yeah, and they let me go after that.
Right. So this teaches you a very good lesson. When you come to court, you don't come to court with your ostensible good looks and brains. You come to court with evidence. That's what you're supposed to come here with. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And not irritate me. It's a very bad thing to irritate me. You all understand that, don't you? Yes. All right, so now let's start again. We're going to start off on the right foot this time, Brian, so that I don't think you're an idiot and you know who I am. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. You decided to rent a share house. Mm-hmm. You two boys leased it for the summer with the intention of subletting rooms in the share house to other people, a practice that's been going on, believe it or not, since I was born and since I lived back in the Stone Age. You rent a house for $20,000, and aside from other people, you leased shares in the share house to these two young ladies, and it is your claim that while they paid you some, they still owe you some as a result of their lease. The girls say that they have paid you. In addition, they say that there were other people in the house, friends of yours, who used the house various times during the summer, who slept in the house, who were not supposed to be there, and they assumed that they were also paying you money. Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Well, that also has been going on since the Stone Age. Now, how many people were allowed to be in this house?
The house was zoned for 8 people. Our landlord told us if we were to have 9 people in the house, it would be okay.
Brian, your lease provides for 8 people. You see, that's why I like to look at a lease. The lease says the maximum occupancy is 8 people. You do read, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to give you another rule of law. You don't want to be a lawyer when you grow up, do you?
No, ma'am.
Thank goodness for small favors. This is a contract. And when you have a written contract, you cannot discuss anything that goes beyond the walls of this contract and say, well, it was modified, we modified it orally. it says maximum occupancy 8, but the landlord told me I could have 9 or 10 people. It wouldn't be terrible. He'd let me. Can't do that. That's basic contract law. So if the landlord told you that you could have 9, then he has to put it in the contract. Do you understand? So the maximum number of people that you could have was 8. Okay. This rental property, let's say for easy math, cost you $20,000. Divided by 8. $2,500 a share. So far, is that correct?
Well, the shares that we had worked out were $2,100, and I can explain to you how we came to the $2,100. We took the lease amount, which was the 19 and change, and then we took the utilities, the gas and electric bill, and we divided that by 10. Now, the 10
now,
for...
how can you divide that by 10? That's
well, that was
illegal.
because, well, Samantha wanted her own room because she didn't want anyone sleeping in a room with her, so what she effectively did was
Samantha, smart girl. Very, very smart girl, Samantha. All right, so Brian has already violated his lease because, according to you, you were going to have 9 people in the house plus Samantha's double share.
Yes, ma'am.
So how many people did you actually rent to?
It was 9 people.
Also, there was one other person who lived there for a month because I left a month early, so I sold the rest of my share to somebody because I left for graduate school.
And
so,
what was that person?
His name was Chris. So he paid kind of like a third of mine because he came in and I had left.
What's your first name?
My name is Rodney.
Rodney, are you telling me that Chris was never there at the same time you were?
Oh, no, that's not true at all. He was...
Right! Because that's their complaint, you see. That's their complaint, that there weren't 9 of you, there were 10 of you. And when you originally divided the number of shares they were going to be, even if there were 9, which was illegal, you brought in somebody else to make a 10th person. And that person was there sometimes when you were there and sometimes not.
Ma'am, the girls had female friends that had practically moved in with them. We absolutely never said anything about that.
Did they?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they? When you say practically moved in with them,
2-3 weeks at a time.
2-3 full weeks at a time? Give me the name.
Erin.
Okay, her friend.
Natalie had a friend that would come every weekend.
Name?
Lauren. And then for quite some time, there was a girl that stayed in her room, and her name was
Natalie,
Erin.
who's Lauren?
Lauren is a friend of mine that came to visit me a couple times this past summer. And I mean, I had no objections to it because she's welcome to me and to her home multiple times. But they had people coming into this house almost every weekend from DC, from wherever. And I would say, oh, Brian, who are these people? They're weekenders. Don't worry about it. They're paying too.
So are you telling me that Brian told you that they were paying?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you had your friends visiting, were they paying?
No.
All right. Go ahead.
What we did was we had weekenders who would come in and they paid like a very reduced rate, and we used that just for the house, to keep the house up and running, to pay our TV bill. We had TV's bills that were $300-400. We had them pay that. We are absolutely not interested in nickel and diming our friends. We put up the money for that house solely because 9 of us wanted to get a house, and we were the only people that were able to do so. We had absolutely no interest in getting money out of this.
Brian, let me explain something. You cannot do that. You cannot unilaterally say, I am going to modify the terms of our lease agreement, whether it was an oral or a written lease, for 9 people and say, well, we're going to have 15 people in total. Some are going to be weekenders. And I'm going to use that money to defray any other costs that we might have. Let's say we want to throw a party or 2. Let's say we want to bring in beer, we need some liquor, or we need some other stuff. That money will defray those costs. You can't do that. Your agreement with them doesn't give you that right. Now, how much money do you say that the girls owe you, and how much did they pay?
Samantha was up to $42 for her 2-person share. She gave us $3,500. We were asking her for another $7. And Natalie, having given us $1,650, and we were just asking the difference between $20 and $100. When they left for the summer, they said, no problem. We'll pay you. Just ask our dads. Our dads will just write you a check for it. No problem. This is what they said. They said, my dad will pay me absolutely, whatever I owe, my dad will pay it.
Good. Let's start.
Interjection.
Natalie,
my father died when I was 13, so it's obvious I never said that.
I'm sorry. Samantha, I'm sorry.
Natalie, how much money did you pay them in total?
I paid him $2,000.
You have proof of that?
I have a check that was written between my grandmother and my aunt, And then the other $500 I gave to Elise before the summer started, and the other $500 I gave in a cash payment over the course of the summer. I believe it was in June.
Did everybody pay you in check or check and cash?
No, hardly any checks. It was almost all cash. Always cash.
Do you have any record of payment?
No, ma'am. We just assumed that we would all. I mean, we weren't running a business. We were just
Well,
nine
now
friends.
you're running a business, so how can you sue if you don't have a record of payment? She says she paid you $2,000, which means at most she owes you $100.
Well, I mean, that's not true, but.
My initial reaction was perfect. You say you owe him $100?
Sure.
Okay.
If I must, then I.
Well, you owe him
Oh, no,
$100.
that's okay.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Next. What about you?
I paid a total of $4,000. I have record of $3,500, which I paid before I moved in.
So, what about the rest of the money?
I paid in cash during the summer.
Show me the record. I assume you don't have a record of Samantha's either. So you say at most you owe $200. Is that right? Mm-hmm. I don't believe you. When you paid your $2,000, tell me the way you made the payments.
First off, it was $250. I believe it was like, I decided that I would definitely live in the house probably the beginning of April. Okay, my apologies, Your Honor. Beginning of April, $250 to Elise. I said, please give this to Brian and Rodney. They live next door to her. Passed it on, supposedly. Then another $250 a couple weeks later, $500 down. Then I went and saw my grandmother, saw my aunt, and they said, of course, we'll be willing to help you. Wrote a check from Elizabeth Harris to Rodney Hill, $1,000. Paid
so far we're $1,500.
Yes.
Okay, and
then by the end of June, at the very latest, another $500 in cash, just from money that I made as being a waitress over the summer.
Okay, and you paid $3,500 that you can prove?
Yes.
That you can prove?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The $500 they've both exaggerated beyond what we said they paid is entirely made up.
If you're going to be in business, you have to keep records.
You're quite right.
I know I'm right. Thank you. If you want to be in business, you have to keep records. Your brother just told me he doesn't know. He thinks that they gave you so far $1,650. It could be $1,500. Maybe it's only $1,500 that she gave you.
Your Honor, I can actually say she didn't give me $500, which is why I don't believe she gave the $500. She actually gave me $750. So I do not
So instead
believe...
of $500, she gave you $750.
Yeah. So if her records are incorrect there, I don't see how she could say that.
Okay,
she
Natalie.
Actually,
Natalie.
Your Honor.
Sit down.
How does...
Sit down. Sit. And speak not. Natalie, you owe him another $100.
Okay.
Samantha,
Yes.
you owe him $700 because you do have records of $3,500. And anybody who has records of $3,500 has the records of the rest. So next time, don't go into business, guys. You're not smart enough. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Photographer Martin Carroll is suing his ex-girlfriend, waitress Cynthia Clark, for unpaid loans to pay her bills. Cynthia claims the money was paying for her trips to see Martin.
Yes, case number 215 on the calendar in the matter of Carroll versus Clark. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Carroll, I've read your complaint, and according to your story, you met the defendant on a dating website over the internet. You began a long-distance relationship, and over the course of that brief relationship, you loaned her a substantial amount of money.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And then she broke up with you. She told you she had a new boyfriend. You want your money back.
Correct.
Ms. Clark says she never borrowed any money from you. You gave her money. The money that you advanced to her were gifts. She owes you nothing. When did you find each other on the internet?
I believe about October of last year.
How old are you, sir?
27.
Where do you live?
I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
And you?
I live in Martinsville, Virginia.
How old are you, Miss Clark?
27.
How many children do you have?
I have 5 children.
When you met on the internet, did you tell Mr. Carroll about your 5 kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes,
You were looking for an instant family?
It didn't matter to me. She seemed like a nice person, so I wanted to get to know her better. And the fact that the children never bothered me. I love kids, and I don't have any of my own, but I do have a niece who I adore, and I like children, so that condition didn't bother me.
When did you first meet in person?
Weekend of Halloween.
And how often did you see her?
After that, she came to see me about every other weekend, if not every weekend.
And she would come with or without her children?
She'd come with her children.
Did you all get along?
Yeah, got along pretty great. I took care of them for Christmas, and I bought them Christmas presents, which those were gifts. And then about the beginning of last year, beginning of this year is when I started loaning her the money.
When did you break up?
Beginning of May of this year.
Who broke up with whom?
she called me and told me she didn't want to continue the relationship. She said she needed more time in her life with no men in her life and wanted to get her life straight without a relationship, and that she wanted to stay friends and then maybe one day pick our relationship back up where it left off.
Okay, but you had a new boyfriend at that point?
Not at the time. Okay. After a little while, I did start seeing somebody else.
When?
A couple weeks.
A couple of weeks. Waited that long, did you?
It was mainly, I was trying to be nice. It was mainly because we argued all the time.
About what?
Pretty much any little thing you could imagine. Every time we were on the phone, we argued.
Okay. Is this the boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he here for any reason?
My witness.
For what?
Money that he was never said that it was a loan.
Well, how would he know that?
Because he was a friend of mine and he was with me all the time.
So you mean while you were dating Mr. Carroll and asking him for money, what's your name?
Triton Horton.
What?
Triton Horton.
First name?
Triton.
Triton. I have to tell that name to my daughter. She likes peculiar names for her children. That's one I haven't heard. Anyway, so Triton was around while you were dating and borrowing money from Mr. Carroll.
I wasn't borrowing any money from Mr. Carroll.
Taking money from Mr. Carroll. How do you like that better?
No.
So Triton was around while you were taking money and seeing Mr. Carroll. That's either a yes or a no, Miss Clark.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he became your boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
2 weeks after you dumped Mr. Carroll.
Yes, ma'am.
Does he live with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Since when?
He's been living with me. Well, he lived with me even when we were together. So did his witness.
So, what's your name?
Myra.
Myra lived with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you two meet?
In Virginia Beach. I brought her and her boyfriend back home with me because they...
You met through the plaintiff?
Yes, ma'am.
And she came to live with you, and you were living with yourself,
myself at the time.
Your 5 children, Triton, and Myra.
Actually, they lived with us first, and then Triton had moved in when he had lost his apartment.
He lost his apartment because he didn't have any...
Money.
Money. How much money did you give to her over the period of...
Over the course of January through May, I loaned her well over $5,000 via Western Union, which I have receipts right here for every single one.
Now, tell me how it would come about that you gave her this money.
She would call me and say, you know, I need my bolts are broken on my car, I need to get replaced, or my kids are sick.
Shh, just a second.
My kids are sick, or I'm sick, I need money for food, or I need money for Easter, I need money for car repairs, I need money for my bills, my lights are about to get shut off, my rent's overdue, I'm going to get kicked out of my house. Please, honey, help me out.
Please, honey, help me out. And what did you say to her?
Absolutely. I mean, I cared about her and I cared for her children, so I was going to be willing to look out for them. Since we were supposedly dating at the time, I wanted to make sure she was taken care of. So I loaned her the money.
Well, so far I haven't heard anything about a loan, Mr. Carroll. So far I've heard, babe, can you help me out? And you said, I said, sure, because we were, shh, listen to me, Mr. Carroll. Because I said, sure, you know, we were a couple, we were together, I cared for her, you know, and she needed money, so I wanted to help her out.
Well, it was all under the condition she would also say, you know, I promise I'll pay you back. And Myra here, who was with her almost every single time, she would say, I promise I'll pay you back. And I said, well, I need the money back. And I can't just be giving out all this kind of money and not get it back. And I need some, redemption at one point or another. And she's like, I promise I'll pay you back.
Mr. Carroll, let me tell you something. Don't embellish when you come to court. Because I can hear her saying, honey, I promise I'll pay you back. As soon as I get a job, I promise I'll pay you back. But I don't hear you saying to her, listen, I need some redemption at some point. And that I don't believe. I believe she probably said to you, honey, I promise I'll pay you back. So don't embellish. Because when things don't sound right to my ears, they're usually not true. We understand each other, Mr. Carroll?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was always asking for money. Well, the twins are sick and I need some money, please, so I can get their medication. Yes, she would use some of the money to get the medication, but she was also using the money to buy illegal drugs.
And later today...
Don't stand there and make excuses. You know, you can't get by on good looks. Beauty fades.
We're not.
Ladies, beauty fades. Dumb is forever.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Martin Carroll says ex-girlfriend Cynthia Clark owes for unpaid loans to pay bills. Martin's witness, Myra Edwards, claims Cynthia used the money to buy drugs.
Can I see those, please? What did he give you the money for, Miss Clark?
One time he sent it for Easter to help get my kids Easter baskets. My twins got sick and he had sent me money for medication. Another time he'd send me money to go down to see him because I couldn't afford a trip by myself. I wasn't working at the time and I do have 5 children and he wanted to see me, so he would send me money to come see him.
Go ahead, let me hear the rest.
He also had sent me money to fix my car, well, to get another car because my car was messed up.
All this money that he was sending you, it came out as a result of you placing a telephone call to him to say, honey, I need money, because otherwise he wouldn't have known. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you called him and asked him for money.
Most of the time he offered it to me, but I would talk to him about the problems and he would offer it to me. You know, I'm here for you. I love you. I'll do anything for you. If you need the help, you know, I'm here for you. I'll send you the money.
Now, all the time he was saying that to you and you were telling him that you needed money for all these things, Mr. Triton over here, he was living in your house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And not working because he didn't have any money, which is why he got thrown out of his own house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Myra, you were living at her house.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever present when these phone calls were made
Yes,
asking for money?
Phone calls were made regularly from her to Martin, and she was always asking for money. Well, the twins are sick and I need some money, please, so I can get their medication. Yes, she would use some of the money to get the medication, but she was also using the money to buy illegal drugs.
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
Shh, just a second. Did you ever hear her say to the plaintiff anything about paying back the money?
She would be crying to him on the phone, talking about she would pay him back. And then she'd get off the phone with him, well, he's a sucker because he should know that I'm not going to pay him back.
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
Shh.
That...
How many rooms are in this house?
3 bedrooms.
You had one?
No, ma'am.
Where did you sleep?
On the couch.
No, ma'am, Your Honor. She slept in my bedroom.
Shh, 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 shh. Where did Triton sleep?
In the bed with Cindy.
And when did that start?
Around Valentine's Day, because he got out of jail shortly before Valentine's Day.
What were you in jail for?
Probation violation.
Up here. Probation violation for what?
Failing to do my community service.
Community service on what was the underlying charge? Is not an answer.
Felony gun charges.
Were you sentenced to prison on that charge?
I was sent to a year in Henry County Jail.
So that wasn't your first arrest?
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
Right. Okie dokie. And you got out of jail about Valentine's Day?
Yes, just before.
And you moved right back with Miss Clark?
No, ma'am, I didn't move right in with her.
How many days did it take you to move back in with her?
It was more than a few weeks. I had got my own apartment, and then we made an agreement with Myra and her boyfriend that they could move into my apartment since they were sleeping in Cindy's bed.
Now, when she moved out with her boyfriend, where did you move to?
I moved to the air mattress and the living room floor.
You mean you moved out of your apartment where you had a nice, comfortable bed and you slept on the floor? You want me to believe that?
The apartment was a rat's nest.
And that's why she moved in there, because it was a rat's nest.
That's because she didn't want to live there no more.
Miss Clark, I don't believe that there was a contract that was made between you and the plaintiff that I can characterize as a loan. I think that she would call you, ask you for money, you loved her, you gave her the money, because it was your intention that the two of you were going to spend your lives together. That be a fair statement?
I wanted to build a relationship. I don't know how long term, but I wanted to, I was looking out for her and kids, and the only reason I did it, I was on the assumption that she would pay me back. She would always tell me she'd pay me back.
Listen to my question.
Okay.
How did you think she was going to pay you back? With what?
She said
wampum?
She said when she got a job, she'd start paying me back.
Okay. Listen, this is somebody whose business is making babies. She's 27 years old. She has 5 children. She has no money. She relies on the largesse of others. She finally got herself a job. She's got a boyfriend who can't, I was going to say who can't get himself arrested, but that wouldn't be true. So you listen to me very carefully, sir. I don't believe that you had what I would consider a valid contract with her to repay you this money. However, I believe that you're entitled to the money from her because I believe she defrauded you. I believe she led you to believe that you were in a monogamous relationship with her. And based on that monogamous relationship that was working towards something that could have been permanent, she was asking you for money. And I believe that all the time she was asking you for money, she was making a fool out of you with Mr. Triton. So she got that money from you fraudulently, and she has to return it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, I did not fraudulate him.
The whole time we were supposedly together, she was cheating on me with Trayton.
I should have told him.
She's a lying, trifling.
I'm just glad it's over.
Just watch your back.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Henry versus Parsons, Spurlock, Smith. Step forward.
Registered nurse Marianne Henry is suing her son's former friends, 18-year-olds Annie Parsons, Amy Spurlock, and Taylor Smith, for scratching his Honda Civic.
Mrs. Henry, which one of these two young men is your son?
Right here in the sport coat. Joshua.
Joshua, you know these three young beauties?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you know them?
I went to school with them.
You were on a camping trip with them?
Yes, Your Honor.
Had you ever dated these girls?
No, Your Honor.
Did you ever want to date these girls?
No, Your Honor.
Were you friends?
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your mother's complaint, because you were driving her truck. Is it a truck or a car?
It was a car.
Car. These three lovelies decided to pull a little bit of a practical joke, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what you did to Miss Henry's car.
Well,
that was parked at the campgrounds on the 26th of June.
Well, I guess I can tell this part. This whole thing started...
What's your name?
I'm Amy Spurlock.
Go ahead.
Well, it all started because we took Josh's keys because he was really drunk, and we didn't know if he was going to drive or we didn't know, so we took him, and he was really...
Where did you take his keys from?
My boyfriend took his keys, and then I had his keys. I took the keys from my boyfriend.
Why?
Because Josh was saying that he wanted to leave.
Just a second. That doesn't tell me how his tent got on top of his car.
Well, he became upset with us because we wouldn't give him his keys back. We went up to his tent because he went up there, he was mad at us, and he went up and went to bed.
What did you do when you went up to his tent?
We went up to his tent, and just as a joke, because, you know, he always messes with us. You know, when you go to parties, everybody just messes with people, and we were taking, like, the poles out of the tent to make it collapse or whatever as a joke. And then we did that a few times.
So you took the poles out of his tent and it collapsed on him?
Yes.
How many times did you do that?
I would say maybe 3.
Then what happened?
And then he got really upset, and he came up because his tent was...
Just a second. What happened when he got upset?
And then he came back to our campsite and was, like, screaming and punching tents and just going crazy.
So he was angry?
Yes.
And then what happened, Amy?
And then we all went back down there.
Who's we all?
Myself, Annie, Taylor. There was...
You're Taylor?
Yes, ma'am. There was, like, maybe 3 other people.
Okay.
And we all went down there, and he wasn't there, and we were looking for him. And I took the poles out of his tent, like, all the way out of his tent. And then I was dragging it over to his car, and another young man put the tent on top of his car.
Why did you go up looking for him?
Because the place where we were is in the middle of nowhere. The only thing there is a Texaco and a prison. And everyone was joking around that night saying that 2 people had escaped from the prison, which I don't know if that's a true story or not. But that.
Why did you go up looking for him?
Because we were concerned for him. We didn't know where he went because he was mad at us. And we went, honestly, we went looking for him because we were going to be like, you know, Josh, we're sorry.
All right, so now you don't find him. You're looking for him, and you're so concerned because these 2 mass murderers have escaped from prison that you pull the poles out of his tent. How did you think that was going to help find him?
That's not what I was thinking. It was a joke.
No, just a second. But how could you be joking at this point if you're concerned for his safety?
I was angry with him because he had called me names.
Just a second. But then you didn't go up looking for him because you were concerned for his safety. You went up there looking for him because you were angry. Which one is it?
It was pretty much both. I mean...
Get out. Can I see the... Listen, They would know the truth if it came up and slapped them in the face. Can I see the pictures of your car, please?
Yes, ma'am. Here are the pictures
Good.
of the photos, and I also...
And the estimates to have it fixed.
Ma'am, the estimate came from her body shop that she owns.
I don't give a rat's behind whether it came from her body shop or it came from her nephew's body shop or her husband's body shop. When you do the wrong thing, what happens is you cannot expect to be treated fairly by everybody. You did the wrong thing. Don't stand there and make excuses. You know, you can't get by on good looks. Beauty fades. Ladies, beauty fades. Dumb is forever.
But we're not trying to make excuses. We're just saying that...
You did make an excuse. Put your hand... I'm speaking. You did make an excuse. You said we were concerned. We went up there looking for him because 2 prisoners escaped. Your girlfriend then, because she was so concerned, took the poles out of his tent so that somebody else could drag it over and throw it on his car. Get a life.
But we weren't the only ones there. There were other people there that she's
Then
not...
this is what you have to do. You have to pay $1,000 to have this car repainted, and if you think somebody else was responsible too, then you can sue them and say, I want to be indemnified for part of the money. But right now, it's your bag. Do you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good! Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
20-year-old Carla Patino is suing her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old DeAsia Martin, for keying her Chevy Metro. Carla says DeAsia is jealous and angry.
Order. All rise.
Now, this is case number 314 on the calendar in the matter of Patino versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have a seat.
Miss Patino, the defendant is your boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
And each of you, in the exercise of what I'm sure is excellent judgment, each had a child with him.
Yes.
Right? Stand up next to her. It is your claim that Miss Martin, who's jealous and annoyed because you were fooling around with the boyfriend while he was with her, vandalized your car. Miss Martin says she's not jealous. She's very happy to be rid of him, and she never vandalized your car.
That's right.
So let's find out. What's your name?
Daniel Ayala,
How old are you, Mr. Ayala?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an assistant manager at a grocery store.
For how long?
Been with the company, it's going to be 6 years in November.
And how much money do you earn a year?
Between 30 and 35.
And how many children do you have?
2.
With Miss Martin, you have 1 child. How old is that child?
He's 2.
Pay child support for him?
Not through the course, just I just give her money every week when I get paid.
How much? How much do you give her every week?
She asked me for $40 a week, so I give her $40 a week.
So you give her $40 every week, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Who do you live with now?
I live at home and also stay with her.
What do you mean you live at home and stay with her? What does that mean?
I stay at my mother's house and
How often do you stay at your mother's house?
probably like 2 nights a week.
And you stay with her?
Yes.
Where do you pay rent?
We give her mother money for rent.
Who's we?
Me and Carla.
Give who money for rent?
Her mother.
Oh, so you live with her mother?
Yes.
How much do you pay rent?
She gives her $200 a week. I mean, what, a month? $200 a month.
And you?
Well, I give her $60 a week.
You give her $60 a week.
Yes.
For what?
Just so I could give her money.
You understand that if you give Miss Martin $40 a week, which she's going to tell me you don't give her all the time, is that right?
No, I don't give it to her anymore.
Right? Right. Right. But if you did, that would be $5.74 a day. You look like you are a pretty good eater. Mr. Ayala? Can you eat on $5.74 a day?
Sometimes.
Really? Tell me where. Tell me where you
Fair
eat.
Play Foods Deli.
What?
My grocery store is deli.
Oh, because you get the food for nothing.
Pretty much.
Now, Miss Martin, did you vandalize Miss Patino's car?
No, I did not.
Miss Patino, how was your car vandalized and when?
Okay, it happened on Tuesday, October the 3rd this year. When I got out from work at 9 o'clock, I went to my car and I saw scratches around the car and 4 flat tires. But what happened was that she went to my job the same day around the time 6 and 6:30.
Where do you work?
At a grocery store.
Same grocery store he does?
No, I work at Markham.
So she came to your grocery store. Don't move back and forth. You know what you just did? show me attitude.
Oh,
Right?
I'm sorry. I was just
Don't show me
moving.
attitude. Only one attitude here.
I know. That's right.
Go ahead. So she came to your grocery store.
Yes, she went to my register, and she was talking to her friend, and then she received a call, and it was from my boyfriend, and she...
What did you call her for?
Because she called me. I was at work, and she called me. I couldn't get to the phone, so I just called her back whenever I could, like 5 minutes later.
What was the purpose of the call?
Because right now my son is in Mexico with his parents for 2 months, and the only way I can get through with him is by him calling and translating for me, which he stopped all of that, so I haven't talked to my son at all because he won't call for me.
What is your son doing in Mexico?
He went to go visit his grandparents with his grandmother.
And when do they do back?
Next week.
It was very nice of you to let him go.
I know, and this is the things I get.
It was very nice of her to let him go.
Yeah, I didn't think she was going to do it.
But she did.
I'm very thankful.
Very nice, because she had to sign a paper
Yeah.
allowing him to go, because in Mexico they have those laws that don't permit you to take a baby or a child unless
Right.
both parents go. So she had to sign to let him go. Did you sign with the date that they had to return? What was the date they had to return?
November 10th.
And it says so in the paper that you signed, is that right?
Yes, either 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after.
November 10th.
Right.
Good. When are your parents due home?
November 10th.
They are coming home, aren't they?
Yeah.
What?
Yes would be the answer.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so she came to your register. There was a phone call. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she was talking on the phone, and I heard when she asked him, "What are you doing after work?" And she said, "Oh, you're picking up your little girl." So when she hung up the phone, her friend asked her what he's doing, so I thought, she's talking to him. And then her friend asked her, "Oh, I can't wait for you to have that baby."
What baby?
I think she's pregnant. I don't know.
You pregnant?
No.
Go ahead, let's go.
Okay, she said, I'm going to abort it. And when she was leaving my register, she told me, "Don't tell Danny my business." And I turned around and told her, "I don't care about your business." And then when she was leaving, she started cursing at me, threatening me that she was going to come back at 10 to find me. So,
Okay, and then you went outside and found your car damaged.
yes, and when I got off from work at 9 o'clock, I went to my car and I saw all scratches around the car and 4 flat tires. I called the police, they came, and then my boyfriend received a call from her admitting it that she did damage my car.
Did you receive a call from her?
I actually called her. She didn't answer, and then she called back.
And what was the conversation? Shh, don't speak. What was the conversation?
The conversation was...
Look at me.
The conversation was just like...
Look at me.
Like, whoa, like, did you do anything to Carla's car? And then she's like, "No, I didn't do anything to her car." And then I'm like, "Did you flatten all her 4 tires and scratch all her car?" She's like, "I didn't do anything." And then she just started being very boisterous and just saying a bunch of stuff I couldn't even understand. And then she was just like, "You're lucky I didn't bust all her windows too." And I was just like, wow. And then she just hung up, and I kept trying to call back, like, "Deasia, what's the big deal? What happened? What is going on?"
And
she just wouldn't answer. I even left the messages like, "How could you do this? It's just childish."
Did you speak to her?
Yes, I called her and asked her why did she damage my car when I have never done nothing to her. And then she said, "You know what, I'm tired of you. You have everything. I'm just sick and tired of you. And you're lucky."
No, say nothing until I ask you. I'm going to give you a chance.
And you're
Go ahead.
lucky I didn't pop your windows too. And then she started screaming and arguing, and I couldn't understand her, so I hung up the phone on her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Just so happens that you ended up at her register of the 7 registers that are in the
Because
supermarket.
her register was the only one that didn't have a lot of stuff there.
Baloney!
And later today,
She had asked me if I wanted to take the TV, and I told her yes.
Well, who was supposed to pay for it?
I assumed it was going to be a gift.
In the midst of this hostile situation, you thought that she made you a $4,000 gift.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carla Patino claims her boyfriend's ex, Deasia Martin, vandalized her car by keying it.
Okay, now I'll hear you, Miss Martin.
We went to her job, not knowing if she was working or not. Don't know her schedule, don't know what time she'd be there.
Where do you live?
I live in Chicago, on 16th and Michigan.
And how far is that from where Miss Patino works?
It's say 15 minutes.
Now, you and I both know that there, between where you live and where she works, there are other grocery stores where you can shop.
Right, but also...
So I want to know, first thing, why you went to her grocery store. I don't care whether she was working there or not, whether you knew she was working there or not. I want you to explain to me what you were doing in her grocery store.
My friend came and picked me up from work. Actually, I work in Homewood at Taco Bell, and my friend came and picked me up, and she stays in that area. I was with her grocery shopping, and then we went to Fair Play and went shopping. We didn't go up there to start anything.
Just a second, Miss Martin. Let's go back. You knew that Miss Patino worked in that Fair Play.
Right.
How big a supermarket is it?
How big is it?
Yeah.
It's like a normal supermarket.
Big supermarket?
Right.
How many registers are there?
There are 7 registers.
So you went to her supermarket, and just so happens that you ended up at her register of the 7 registers that are in the supermarket.
Because her register was the only one that didn't have a lot of stuff there, and we only had a couple of things.
Baloney!
It's not
But
baloney.
listen to me. Baloney. Chicago is a big place. I want you to understand something. When something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And if I weren't looking for trouble, I would not go out of my way to go shopping at a Pay attention, put on your listening ears before you start with the attitude.
Go ahead.
I would not go to a supermarket where my ex-boyfriend's girlfriend works to go shopping. I would say to my girlfriend, who was going shopping with me, I don't want to go to that Fair Play. That's where Danny's girlfriend works. I don't want to go there because, you know, we don't get along. I want to go someplace else. And if you want to go to Fair Play, drop me off first. But you didn't say that. First you went shopping. And it wasn't a big shopping because you really didn't need a lot of stuff because, according to you, you chose her register because all you had was a few things. So it wasn't that you were doing a week's worth of grocery shopping and this was the only game in town. And of the 7 registers, you chose her register. Bad form, madam. You get me?
I got you.
Bad form. Now, you're going to tell me that you never said to Danny or to her, you're lucky I didn't pop your windows out. You're going to tell me that you said that.
I didn't say that.
Right. And you're going to tell me that you didn't do her flattened tires.
No, I did not.
Well, either you did or your girlfriend did.
I don't know who did.
Well, but you're going to pay for it. So you better try to figure out.
You better do.
Absolutely did it.
I didn't do it.
Because if somebody is dumb enough, don't speak when I'm speaking. Don't speak when I'm speaking. If somebody's dumb enough, if somebody, hey, you see my mouth moving? If somebody is dumb enough in all the supermarkets in Chicago to pick hers, and if somebody is dumb enough of all the registers available to go to her register, then they are dumb enough to take a car that was parked without flat tires several hours before and flatten the tires and scratch the car. And if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. How much did it cost you for the tires?
I have paid for it. It was $2.80 and 11 cents.
And how much did it cost you to fix the scratches on the car?
The scratches, I haven't fixed them. I just got an estimate.
And what was the estimate?
Got 2 estimates.
The lowest one?
$2,127.90.
And what kind of car do you have?
I have 2000 Chevrolet Metro.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
For her to have low self-esteem and let him put everything in her head.
She knows that I'm doing good in life, and she's not, and she's jealous.
And make it seem like I'm jealous of him, which I don't want him.
Because, you know, my boyfriend, he's with me because he decided to be with me.
And if I did, I can have him, and I'm being nice enough and giving him up.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gill versus Johnson, step forward, please.
Erin Gill is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Stephen Johnson, for a plasma TV he took from their home when he moved out. Stephen claims the TV was a gift from Erin.
Ms. Gill, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend. You lived together for, I don't know, 5, 6 months. Is that about right?
A little longer than that, but
And
close.
according to your complaint, when things didn't work out and you left, he agreed to keep the 42-inch plasma television set and make payments on it. It was bought on your credit. He kept the TV. He didn't make the payments. You want the payments made.
Correct.
The defendant says that things didn't work out, but as soon as you moved in together, you started purchasing things for the apartment, furniture, etc., all kinds of stuff. When he left with the clothes on his back and the TV. So you kept everything else, and the TV is supposed to be his. Is that right, sir? That's your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a truthful defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever agree to make payments on the TV?
No, ma'am.
When did you move in together, Mr. Johnson?
Approximately sometime last year, I believe, in the middle of the year.
June 2005.
And when did you separate?
January of 2006.
And whose apartment was it?
It was under Erin's name. She was on the lease.
You moved in together?
Correct.
When you moved into the apartment, where did you move from?
I moved from my residence that I had shared with my husband.
And you?
from one of my friend's houses.
So you came with no furniture?
No.
Did you come with furniture?
Yes.
What did you come with?
I came with couches, a television, tables. I purchased a bed shortly after moving into the residence, so.
What items do you say you purchased for the residence, Mr. Johnson?
Well, previously to that, I had 2 dresser drawers, a barbecue set, a couple scenic television portraits, another television that I bought in the apartment to furnish it.
Another TV?
Yes.
How large a TV?
It's a 19-inch television set.
How much did you pay for it?
Off the top of my head, approximately about $150.
And where was that, in the bedroom?
I believe it was her son's bedroom.
And you left that TV?
Yes.
And the dressers, drawers, and that stuff, those were not things that you purchased?
Earlier, but not jointly.
Okay. Now, when you left, did Miss Gill say you couldn't take any of these things with you?
No.
So you could have taken your little 19-inch TV, whatever dresser drawers that you left there, you could have taken it with you, right?
Yes.
Because although they probably weren't happy with each other, this was not a hostile separation, right?
It had the potential of being hostile, but...
But it wasn't. Now, why, Mr. Johnson, would Miss Gill, who has a child, why would she make a gift to you of $3,700 for a television set?
Basically, I mean, I left all the items in there, didn't retrieve them.
What?
The dressers.
You could have retrieved them. They were valueless.
I could have, but at that point in time, the relationship had become so dramatic, I just didn't want anything to do with her, and I just didn't want to go back. And when I left, basically, with the clothes on my back...
And the one item of value, which was this $4,000 television set.
And she had asked me if I wanted to take the TV, and I told her yes. And I took the TV.
And she said, take the TV. And what you're telling me is she said, take the TV and I will pay for it?
No.
Well, who was supposed to pay for it?
Well, when she asked me, I assumed it was going to be a gift.
You mean in this... Shh, listen. Ms. Johnson, so what you're telling me is in the midst of this hostile situation, because you used the word hostile.
I'm sorry?
You used the word hostile.
Yes.
You know, potentially hostile. You thought that she made you a $4,000 gift.
Well, along with all the stuff that I left in the apartment, I mean...
You left a lot of junk in the apartment, Mr. Johnson.
Maybe junk to you, but it wasn't to me.
Tell me what was there that you wanted. The 19-inch television set? That could have fit under one arm. She wasn't preventing you from taking it.
I could have also taken the dresser drawers and...
Well, you could have, but you took the $4,000 television set.
She asked me if I wanted it, so I'm not going to turn it down.
Go ahead.
I asked him if he wanted everything. I told him the date I was moving out of the apartment and told him if he did not pick up his belongings that were still at the residence, I would donate them to charity or drop them off at his parents' house, whatever worked for him, and he did not respond to me.
Tell me about the television set.
What would you like to know?
I want to know, what arrangement did you make for him to pay the television set?
We went into Paul's TV, which he researched and found that they had the best prices on televisions.
No, it's purchased.
It's purchased.
Already.
Okay.
Purchased on your credit card.
Right. So we buy the TV, we're in there. It was originally going to be in Steve's name, and there came up some issues with his credit, so they...
I heard that already.
Okay.
I want to know when you were exiting, the exit strategy with regard to the TV.
When he left?
Yes.
When he did leave, he left with just his clothes. We had a few phone conversations, and he came to get the rest of his clothing and other miscellaneous belongings. And at that point, we had a conversation about the TV. And I said, would you like to take the TV and you can pay for it, or I'll keep the TV and pay for it? He said he'll take it and pay for it, and never did.
That sounds right. Nobody's going to make you a gift of $3,700. Is that what you owe on the TV?
It's $37.26.
Can I see it, please?
And here's the payoff statement as of yesterday from Wells Fargo.
Well, the total price was $37.26. You mean nobody paid for it?
No, he's been receiving monthly bills at his parents' house, and he hasn't made any payments.
So you had this TV for 6 months and nobody paid for it?
It was a no interest, no payments for, I believe, 1 or 2 years.
It was a special promotion they were running. It's
yeah.
No money down, no interest, no payments. I don't believe the year has passed by. That's why there's no money due yet.
Well, that's not the issue. The issue is, at this point, you have said that you have no intention of paying this. Is that right?
Completely.
Hmm?
Yes.
Okay. $37.26. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Judge Steve, you may step out.
Marion Mimi McDonald is suing her daughter's ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old Chad Pittman, for damaging her 96 GMC Jimmy during an argument with her daughter.
All rise.
That's case number 324 on the calendar in the matter of McDonald versus Pittman. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Ms. McDonald, you don't know what happened on this day with the car, is that right?
Not besides what my daughter had told me.
Your daughter was driving, but the
Yes.
car is in your name,
Yes.
so you're the one who wants the defendant to pay for the damages
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
car. But your daughter's a big girl. She makes her own mistakes. She's going to stand up and you're going to sit down.
Do you mind if I stand up in between these two? Because he's caused so much turmoil with our family.
Oh, he's not going to make any problem.
Okay.
You see this guy? Squash him like a bug.
Okay.
You understand that, Mr. Pittman?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you keep an eye on Mr. Pittman, because Miss McDonald will feel more comfortable if you do that.
Sure.
Thank you. Ms. McDonald, it is your claim that the defendant backed into your car when he was angry. Mr. Pittman says that you rear-ended him. Mr. Pittman used to be your boyfriend?
Yes.
How long was he your boyfriend?
Almost 3 years.
And how old are you?
17.
And then when the two of you broke up, he started dating, or even before, I don't know how it happened, but now he's with your cousin, who was 15 and pregnant. How wonderful. I assume that the pregnancy is a result of your relationship. Is that right, Mr. Pittman?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
20.
And what do you do to support yourself?
I work for one of my friends.
Doing what?
I'm a foreman, construction foreman.
You work every day?
Yes, ma'am.
How much do you earn a week?
800.
And who do you live with?
My parents.
Pay rent?
No, ma'am.
What do you do with your money?
I put it up for my kid, and I'm buying clothes and all that. Insurance, phone bill, just I pay bills with it.
You have another child?
No, ma'am.
So this is the child that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Do the parents of this 15-year-old who you got pregnant want to put you in jail?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
She allowed me to date her.
Dating her is one thing.
I know.
You know, dating, you go out to eat, you go to a movie, you go ice skating. You know, there are lots of things you can do other than make babies with 15-year-olds, Mr. Pittman. Who are these people?
My mom and my witness.
You didn't give them a good enough lesson in the facts of life. Okay. Tell me when this incident happened with the car, Miss McDonald.
On Friday, August 11th of 2006.
Tell me what you were doing near Mr. Pittman.
It's a parking lot where a bunch of people hang out on Friday and Saturday nights.
And you knew he was there?
I didn't know he was there until I pulled in.
At that point, he was already involved with your cousin?
Yes.
You were angry about that?
Yes, very.
So you pulled in and you saw his car. Was your cousin with him?
Yes, she was.
And what did you do?
I noticed that
No. Look at me. Don't look over there. Look at me.
I noticed that he was there, so I pulled up beside him.
Why?
Just...
Come on.
I was going to talk to him. I pulled up and she was with him. So I confronted him.
Well, what did you say to him?
Because he also was still calling me every night, wanting to be...
Shh, just a second.
Wanting to still be with me at the same time as being with her. And I felt like she needed to know that too.
Well, why did you choose that time to tell her?
It was probably the only other time I would see her.
Yeah, you could have called her on the phone. Could have told your mother. Your mother could have called whoever her mother is and said, listen, this is not a good situation. So you went into this parking lot and there was clearly going to be trouble. So when you say you confronted him, what did you say?
I just, asked him why. Why is he doing this to me? Also wanted to be with her. He needed to choose one or the other.
And then what happened?
We got into a small argument. He then pulled off, and I pulled off behind him to leave because I was so upset. And
So if he pulled off to leave, he wanted to get away from the situation. Why did you follow him?
I wanted to leave. I wanted to go home. I was upset.
Oh, why didn't you wait until he left?
I was just so upset. Didn't know what to do.
Go ahead.
And whenever he pulled off, I pulled off behind him. He hit the brakes, so I hit the brakes too. He threw his truck in reverse and backed into me, and then pulled off and left.
He wanted you to leave him alone. Miss McDonald, he wanted you to leave him alone. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Pittman?
Ma'am?
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
So?
Someone I knew called the police for me, and they came and did a police report and an incident report, which I have a copy of, along with pictures of the damage. And then Monday, whenever my mom got home and we started filling out to file with his insurance company, she then told me that my witness, Dana, who was her coworker, had overheard her talking to some other people at work, and she was actually there in the parking lot Friday with her son.
Perfect. Just stand up, please. Dana, you have a last name?
Morella.
What were you doing in the parking lot?
Me and my son were just up there eating, and we were out in the parking lot looking at all the cars. They have a lot of the nice cars that my son likes to look at, the Nopi cars, and we were just out looking at the cars when I noticed that a big black Bronco just backed up into a green Jimmy. At the time, I did not know that it was...
You drive the big black Bronco?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he backed into her.
Right.
Okay.
And that's all I seen.
Thank you. Let me start with you, Mr. Pittman. It was wrong for Miss McDonald, not smart of her, to confront you and your girlfriend in the parking lot on August 11th. It was wrong for her to follow you after you tried to leave, because you don't know what she's doing, whether she's going to follow you, whether I mean, you have no idea at this point, because you were leaving and she wasn't finished yet. I want you to understand that I am sympathetic with that. I'm not sympathetic with you, but I'm sympathetic with that. Now, all I want to know from you is, did you back your car into hers?
No, ma'am.
You better have very strong, convincing evidence, Mr. Pittman, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be responsible for all the damage on her car. I'm telling you that right now, because I find that even if you did back into her car, she's partially responsible for what happened on that evening. Do you understand that? He was trying to get away from her. She was acting like a nut. She's a kid, and she was acting like a nut, and he was trying to get away from her, and she wouldn't let him. So even if he did say, listen, I'm going to back up into her, I'm not going to hurt her, but then she's going to stop, that was sort of justified under the circumstances. So she is partially responsible. Do you understand that, young lady? So you better be able to convince me that this lady who was in the parking lot with her son is lying to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
After she got through with me, she started on my fiance. She says, well, you know, I hope you and your baby die at birth. That's her exact words.
And later today,
he squired you around town, bought you lots of things, and this was merely a payback. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
When did you start dating Prince Charming?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Michelle McDonald says her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old Chad Pittman, purposely rammed her car with his truck. Chad claims it was Michelle who rear-ended him.
Okay, let me hear.
Your Honor, me and my friends and my fiance was up there at Kmart, and we were minding our own business talking to some of our friends.
Oh, my heart hurts me when you say fiance with 15 years old. Go ahead.
And she come flying up next to us and parked next to us, and then she started on me, and she just started arguing from the start.
Of course she did. I got it. I understand that. It's exactly what she did.
I was shocked. I was embarrassed, you know, because here it is, a bunch of old people were in front of me, and she just come out of nowhere. And after she got through with me, she started on my fiance. And she got in an argument with her, and she's like, Michelle, you know, I love you, you're my cousin and all, but I don't need this right now. I'm 3 months pregnant. So she says, well, you know, I hope you and your baby die at birth. That's her exact words. So she looked at me and she said, I don't need this. So we crank up, we leave, and she starts following us. And I look back to her. My top was off my Bronco at the time. I looked back at her and I said, don't follow us. And I started off again, and I went around a median. As you see over there in the visual, I went around the median, and I went to stop again because she was still following us. I was going to get out, you know, go talk to her, you know, be like, Michelle, look, we don't need this. You know, your cousin, my fiance, she's pregnant. We don't need this. So I went to get out. As soon as I put it in park, she hit me as we was going around the turn. She hit me in the back. So I'll go ahead and get out the truck. She backs up, pulls up next to me, and I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said a few things, and she left. And I looked at my Bronco. There was no damage that I could see. So I got my Bronco, which is private property, you know, so I didn't think that could be done anyway. So
Did you
I left.
see this lady in the parking lot?
Oh, ma'am.
You work together?
We used to work together.
When?
She left at the end of August.
Do you live near each other?
No.
Have you seen each other since work?
Once or twice, maybe.
Just good. Yeah. Okay. You have a witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear your witness. First, let's start with your name.
Robert Drew Norton.
Go ahead.
We had the top off the back of the Bronco.
Were you in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people were in the car? 3 of you?
There was 2 in the back, 2 in the front. And we parked at the meeting, as you see over there. And she pulled up, slammed brakes as I was talking to my friends on the other side of the Bronco. And she started yelling out like all the stuff he said, such as, I hope your baby dies at birth. And she said we don't need it. And then we left, And then she pulled off behind us. We ran around the median, and he went to stop and tell her to quit following, and she hit us. And then she pulled off and said something, and then went flying out the parking lot beside Kmart. And then he looked at his truck, and then we left.
Okay, now I'd like to see the pictures. You work?
I work at Chicken Run.
Okay, good. Ever been in trouble with the law?
No, ma'am.
Uh-huh. Well, if he backed into you, madam, he certainly didn't back into you square on. This indicates that you had damage just to one side of your car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now you can stand up next to your daughter.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Yes.
After she left, there was no cops called. They were called 2 hours later, and one of my friends up there called me and told me this happened at 8:30, 8:45, because I called my mom when I was on the way home, and I don't live but like 15 minutes from there. So it was 2 hours later before she even called the cops.
Go ahead.
The cops were called immediately. There was a 2-hour delay before they got there because there was a shooting in the area, and they apologized. There was nothing they could do. They got someone there as soon as possible.
Ms. McDonald, I'm not satisfied that Mr. Pittman, although he clearly suffers from a lack of good judgment in other social areas of his life, hit your daughter's car. I'm not satisfied he did that at all. I think that your daughter was furious that night. I think that she got into the parking lot expecting to see him there. She saw him there. She confronted him. She confronted him in the car with her cousin. She was so angry that when he chose to leave because he didn't want to hear her vile talk, she followed him and she hit him. And that she can't do. And I don't believe your friend. Sorry. And believe me, if I felt that Mr. Pittman was responsible, at least even partially responsible for hitting the car, I would have held him partially responsible for fixing the damage to your car. This whole incident was precipitated by your daughter. She has to bear the responsibility for it. And the responsibility involves fixing her car, your car. That's all. That's what she has to do. She has to get over him. He's no bargain. You'll find somebody else.
That's not a problem, ma'am. She was supposed to take out a warrant from him, but would not do so for
A warrant for what?
For aggravated assault, is what the police officer told us.
Well, let me tell you something. It's a good thing she didn't, because if I were representing him, I would sue her civilly, because what she told you is a fib.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She had no business being in the parking lot that night. She had no business confronting him, and she had no business following him.
And later today,
You don't look happy, Mr. Smith.
This is my everyday appeal. I always have this MO.
You just have a half-empty appearance.
Yes.
Okie dokie.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Michelle McDonald says her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old Chad Pittman, purposely rammed her car with his truck. Chad claims it was Michelle who rear-ended him.
Miss McDonald, he did not hit her car. She hit his car, and she had no business being in the parking lot that night. She had no business confronting him, and she had no business following him. And you have to accept the responsibility for that and not blame other people. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. That's all. Case dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We're glad it's over with. We hope that she can go on with her life.
I think this is so wrong because he did back up into her. She was not following him.
I still care about him, and that somebody could just do this, it hurts real bad.
She's just really angry about, you know, it being the cousin.
She was sorry, but she loved him.
She lost down, I guess.
Didn't want to hurt me, wanted the best for me.
I just hope she betters herself, you know, no hard feelings or nothing.
I've realized I'm better off without him.
Hope she moves on with her life and move on with mine.
The family's a big fallout. There's no communication at all, no contact at all.
I've got so much more in my life now without him.
Oh, it's done and over. I don't see them. I try not to run into them.
This would be something that's run our family for the life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Elfman versus Smith. Step forward.
23-year-old Teresa Elfman is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Marcus Smith, for loans to pay traffic fines and to renew his driver's license.
Miss Elfman, this young man used to be your boyfriend. You claim you made a loan to him by paying off some car fines in order for him to be able to drive. Mr. Smith acknowledges that you paid off the fines. He said there was never a loan, this was a gift. He squired you around town, bought you lots of things during the course of your short relationship, and this was merely a payback. Is that right, sir?
Yes. It was.
When did you start dating Prince Charming?
The beginning of June. We met through mutual friends.
And when did you advance this money to him?
The end of July. July 21st and the 23rd, I believe.
Are those dates correct, Mr. Smith?
Sounds correct, yes.
Do you want to be here, sir?
I don't know. I'm here.
You don't look happy, Mr. Smith.
Nah, this is my everyday appeal. I always have this MO, you know. So,
You're a scowler.
nah.
You look angry.
Yeah.
You wear contact lenses?
No.
You just have a half-empty appearance.
Yes.
Okie dokie. What was the money for?
He had some fines to pay in order to, before he got his car, and so he had to pay some fines in order to get his license back. So we asked for the loan.
What did he say to you?
Teresa, can I borrow some money, please? I'm getting a loan. He was getting a $7,000 annuity check from his union, and I actually helped him write the letter to get that, and I knew he was getting money, so he asked before that so he could get the car could go into his name, and so I said, sure, and he's like, I'll give it back to you in installments, or actually he was going to give it back to me when he got that check from the annuity from his union.
What kind of annuity were you getting from your union?
I was borrowing money for my annuity.
Why?
Because I just had got out of jail and needed transportation. So I took out $8 grand where I can get an automobile.
What kind of union do you belong to?
Carpenters.
So you were working full-time?
Yeah, I was working full-time.
So you were going to take out the loan, but you needed the money before that?
Yeah, I needed the money before then. I already purchased the car, I just couldn't get my license reinstated because...
So tell me what you said to her.
I just asked if I could borrow a couple of dollars.
Right. Look what you said. Look how easy you made. So that you asked if you could borrow a couple of dollars, and she said what?
Yes. How much you need?
Good. How much do you need?
Yeah.
How much did you tell her you needed to borrow?
However much I needed to get reinstated to get my license.
Okay, and she took care of that, right?
Yes.
And how much was it?
It was $700 I had loaned him. I'm just suing him for the stuff that I actually have proof for that I paid for him.
Which was?
Which was to the RMV of $530 for one check, and then the second check for $60 to the Registry of Motor Vehicles as well.
Okay, so $590. So, Mr. Smith, there you go. You said, hey, Teresa, can I borrow some money? She said yes, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Smith, it's so nice that you're being so cooperative. I read your answer, and your answer said there was never a loan. This was just a gift because I took her around and I spent close to $1,000 on her. I never asked her for anything. She did it on her own. So it's really nice of you. I want to tell you that it's really nice of you because everyone's...
I'm a generous person. I'm not, you know...
Listen to me. Every once in a while,
right.
somebody comes here and makes my life easy. Doesn't happen often. But every once in a while it does. And Mr. Smith, I want to thank you for that. I thank you, Bird thanks you, my husband thanks you, my grandchildren thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $590. That's all.
Judge Judy continued. Justin Munson is suing the mother of his daughter, Tasha Schnipkowite, for the return of his belongings and an unpaid electric bill.
Order. All rise.
That's case number 272 on the calendar in the matter of Munson versus Schnipkowite. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Munson, you and the defendant lived together on and off for about 3 years, according to the complaint that I read.
Yeah.
You have one child together, and the defendant has one from another relationship. It is your complaint that when this miserable relationship finally terminated, the defendant cleaned out the apartment of property that belonged to you. You want your property back. It is suggested in the complaint that you have a domestic violence problem, which means a short fuse or an assaultive personality, and that the defendant has an alcohol problem. And these two children, unfortunately, have to suffer through all of that. The defendant says she took only the property that was hers, and she is counterclaiming for the assault that she alleges was perpetrated by you, which caused this final separation. Is that correct?
Correct.
You lived on and off for 3 years. How old is the child that you have together?
1.
And how old is your other child?
My son is 10.
And there was a time when both of these children were removed from your custody by Child Protective Services.
No.
Just one.
Just one. Actually, my ex-husband and I have joint custody. I had physical care of my oldest son up until 2005, and then physical care went over to my ex-husband, and it went from him having weekends to me having weekends, Your Honor.
That was through Child Protective Services?
No, not on my son, just on Emma, Your Honor.
Just on our daughter.
So Child Protective Services did not remove the older child and place the older child in foster care, but they removed the younger child. How old was Emma when she was removed?
She was 5 weeks old, but it was in my relative. I'm sorry, 5 weeks old, Your Honor.
Why was she removed?
The defendant had put bruises. I have pictures of what he did to her and what he did to me at the time, and this is why she was removed.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. And he was actually founded for the abuse on her face and pleaded out to the abuse on me.
Judge, there is another thing that is being removed for that, for being both of us being founded for that bruise on her, and it's still in our appeal.
Who's responsible for the bruises on the defendant?
That's me.
That would be you?
I pleaded guilty, yep.
How many times did you plead guilty to assault?
Just once.
He was arrested several times, sorry.
Prior to your relationship with the defendant, were you involved in another relationship?
Yes.
Were you ever arrested with regard to that relationship for domestic violence?
We both were, yes.
Didn't ask about
Yes,
both.
did.
I said you.
Yes, I did.
What are you smiling about?
Because it's not nice for me what I did. I regret it.
Well, then why are you smiling? That's an inappropriate affect. You know what they say about inappropriate affect? They usually say that you're crazy when you have inappropriate affect. Is your grandmother still alive?
One, yes.
Okay, if somebody said to you that your grandmother died, would you smile?
Probably not.
Right, because that would be an appropriate affect. You would look sad. You would say, oh, my goodness. So when I ask you about who did this and whether you were ever arrested for domestic violence and you smile, it's inappropriate.
Sorry, Judge.
You did it again. What stuff do you claim she took? Let's just get to it.
Tools.
Tools. You have his tools?
I have pictures of what tools I have. There's no way anything in the house was supposed to...
Listen to me.
Yes.
Stop shaking.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You have his tools?
No, not the tools that he claims.
I don't care tools he claims. The tools that you have. You have tools.
One toolbox and one tote of tools.
Good. Very, very good. You're going to return those to him?
I absolutely will.
Absolutely. Within 5 days. You get your tools back, sir, within 5 days. What else do you claim she has of yours?
Leather jacket.
A leather jacket. Do you have it?
I could have it. I wore it when I was pregnant.
Listen to me very carefully. I want you to give him back his leather jacket. Okay. Perfect. What else?
A pool stick. There's
a pool stick?
Yeah,
you never
I
hit
got
her
a
with
whole
it.
list.
Look at me. I'm talking. You never hit her with the pool stick, did you?
No.
Do you have his pool stick, madam?
I don't believe so.
She has no pool stick. What else?
Half a utility bill.
Forget it.
And my Mark Martin perp.
You what?
My NASCAR stuff.
Your NASCAR stuff. What kind of NASCAR stuff?
Mark Martin Propel, like cars.
I have no idea. You're mumbling, you're garbling your words.
Mark Martin cars, there's like number 6, the race car NASCAR.
A race car number 6. Do you have his race car
We
NASCAR?
redid my son's room in NASCAR, and he gave this Mark Martin stuff. My son's a junior fan.
That's
he gave it
not
to my
true,
son
Your
in his
Honor.
room.
Just 1 second. I want you to consider it a gift to the 10-year-old. What's next?
That's
it.
That's it.
Listen, within 5 days, you're going to return to him in a nice box his tools that you have and his leather jacket.
Okay.
You're going to look around and see if you can find his pool cue.
Okay.
If you can find his pool cue, you're going to send it to him. Who are you?
Sorry, I'm his mother.
I wouldn't acknowledge that fact before all these people. Madam, do you hear what I just said? He sued for his property. He just told me what his property was. Don't help him. That's what he says his property was.
Excuse me, Judge.
He didn't understand, I'm sure.
He didn't understand? That's not my problem. I didn't raise him. That's your problem. You raised an abuser. That's your problem. I would take care of that before I took care of anything else.
I went through my class on that, excuse me, Judge.
Let me explain something. Did you go through the class the last time you beat up a woman?
I didn't have to because we mutual agreement.
Mutual combatants.
He graduated BEP and did it
Listen.
again. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I got it. I'm not excusing you. You picked him.
I got a restraining order and left.
Very
for
good.
my
You're going to
kids.
get your stuff all ready.
I got that restraining order right here saying that why did she stay in my house before then? She still came in.
Mr. Munson, you came to court asking for the court's help in getting you your property back. She says she has some tools that belong to you, and she's more than willing to give you those tools back. She also believes she has your leather jacket, which she is going to give you back. You also want a little toy car.
There's a bunch of them.
And she was honest with me the first two things. She said, I think I have his tools, and I have his leather jacket. About the cars, you redecorated, while you were together, the 10-year-old's room, and you put those cars in his room. That makes it a gift. You don't get those back.
That's because it's a two-bedroom apartment. Where else are we going to put it in our two-bedroom apartment?
You don't want me to answer that question, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Is he your only child?
No.
Are the other ones normal?
Yes.
The other one is normal.
Both of them.
He's not normal.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Justin Munson claims the mother of his daughter, Tasha Schnipkowite, won't return his tools or his NASCAR collectibles. Tasha is countersuing, claiming Justin physically abused her and their infant daughter.
Now I want you to give me the date of this assault that you are complaining about.
It was Memorial Weekend, May of 2006.
That wasn't this assault, was it?
No, that was October when my daughter was removed, October of '05. All I have is my hospital records of the
Can I
Memorial.
see it, please?
Absolutely, Your Honor. In that incident, he had swelled my eyes shut.
Do you have any photographs?
I didn't get photographs.
Okay. I would like you to tell me what happened on Memorial Day.
Okay. I picked him up from work, and we had went out for a couple drinks, and he has a very, very jealous tendency. I'm always.
Why were you drinking? You got a problem?
He states that I have a problem drinking, Your Honor. I don't drink any more than anybody else might. Okay.
You may or may not, but I wouldn't drink at all.
That's true. That is true.
So you went out for a couple of drinks, and?
And prior to that, we'd separated, and I just moved back in with him. And when we were separated, I had started dating somebody else. And he always wanted me to tell him in detail everything about the man. Well, when he drank, that's when his anger really flares. And so we had gotten home, and he started asking me questions about the other gentleman. And I wasn't willing to talk about it, so he held me down on the couch. And he just over and over in my head and in my face. And I had to wait till he passed out, and I ran down the street to my mother's house. And my mother then called the DHS because we had a visit with our daughter that weekend. And they didn't think that our daughter should come the next day with me looking the way I did. And
okay, okay. You want to tell me your version, Mr. Munson, of what happened on Memorial Day?
She got hit by a softball, Judge. That guy written right here, statement from her saying she did.
You mean from the emergency room?
Nope, from the emergency room said that, and from what she told the DHS.
I had said I would never get my daughter back.
That's no question that's what she told them, that she got hit with a softball or maybe a bus. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you what happened on Memorial Day, sir. I expect an answer. Look, don't look there. And don't look there. Listen to me. There is no question you assaulted her on Memorial Day. There is no question in my mind that you assaulted her on Memorial Day. Maybe you have an excuse. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe you were drinking. Maybe she was drinking. But don't tell me she got hit with a baseball. Do you understand? That's what she told them so that they weren't going to remove the little girl again or keep you both from her because of the domestic violence. So let's hear it.
I was out with my friend in Illinois that day.
Why didn't you bring your witness?
Because I was told that I didn't need him.
Well, you do. There you go with that stupid affect again, Mr. Munson. You want to tell me what happened on Memorial Day?
I came home at 11, and she came home next day. I don't remember what day it was, but it was the next day at 5 in the morning, and her eye was swollen shut, and we took her to the hospital about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Your Honor, we went to his mother's that weekend, and she's the only one that knew the truth.
Just a sec. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to get the truth out of his mother. She's going to continue to cover for him like she's been covering for him his whole life.
Yes.
But I know that he assaulted you. No question. And it would be outrageous for you to say a word. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Can I please have the medical report, please? One of these days, he's going to really hurt somebody, madam. He's going to really hurt somebody because he's a nasty drunk. He's a nasty, vicious drunk. Tasha stated that she received the bruising on her face, arms, because they're concerned about returning this child to a household where there is domestic violence. She received the bruising on her face, arms, and inner thigh at the end of May from a baseball. You got it. Is he your only child?
No.
Are the other ones normal?
Yes. He's married and has a child.
The other one is normal?
All of them. Both of them.
He's not normal. He's not normal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you bring a child up in an abusive household, like you did, that's what they become. They become an abuser.
And later today,
The defendant says that you did finance some reconstructive cosmetic surgery.
She wanted to start a new life, and no cosmetic surgeon is going to take payments, so I paid for it up front.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Justin Munson claims the mother of his daughter, Tasha Schnipkowite, won't return his tools or his NASCAR collectibles. Tasha is countersuing, claiming Justin physically abused her and their infant daughter.
Okay. Were you married to their father?
Yes.
Did he
He
beat
was
you?
abusive. Yes.
Did he beat you?
Yes.
That's what happens. Abusers see their mothers abused. That's what they think happens. That's the way they think people live. You're allowed to do it. It's accepted. Don't you read things? Don't you watch television? Don't you see documentaries? Don't you read newspapers? When you bring a child up in an abusive household, like you did, that's what they become. They become an abuser, like your son. And don't make excuses for him. You may have made excuses for your husband, but don't make excuses for your son. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $5,000. Thank you very much. That's it.
Why did I excuse, sir? Stay here. Stay here for a moment.
It took a lot for me to move on, and now I'm doing, I don't want to stay with an abusive man.
Hitting over head with a pan. I got hit with anything she could grab.
I don't want to raise my kids to grow up to be what he is.
I was wrong in what I've done, yes, but
You took
I mean, I
classes.
took my part in doing my classes to make myself better.
He promised he'd change, and again, it just kept happening over and over and over.
I got a good woman now that she has no problem with me.
When you start seeing those red flags, get out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Strive. Step forward, please.
Belinda Smith is suing her cousin, Laura Strive, for a loan to have cosmetic surgery. Laura claims she never agreed to pay back the entire amount.
Miss Smith, this is your cousin, and your complaint alleges a loan to her for some reconstructive cosmetic surgery. The defendant says that you did, in fact, finance this surgery for her. You did so as a gift because you cared about her. At this point, you're angry that she decided to go back to her husband.
That is not.
That's your defense.
Yes.
Were you good friends as well as relatives?
Years ago we were, but I hadn't seen her for 17 years prior.
Prior to
the
what?
surgery.
Prior to the surgery? Well, then tell me how it came about if you hadn't seen her.
She had left her husband and came to stay with me, and then when my house became available, she moved into my house and rented out my house. Once she did that, I ended up leaving.
Did she rent out your house alone?
Initially, yes, she was living there alone, and I moved back in my house with her, and we shared the house together as roommates.
The two of you?
Yes.
For how long?
I want to say April to when she left in January.
Okay, tell me how it came about.
When she came to live with me, she was always down and out. She was without a sternum bone, without a breastbone, and very insecure with herself. She was going through a divorce. She signed divorce papers. She left her husband. She wanted to start a new life.
Tell me how it came about. Don't tell me why you did it. I didn't ask you why. Tell me how it came about.
I really couldn't. It was just a conversation we had, and we went on a couple of consultations. You know, I'm even paying the finance charges. She knew.
Just tell me how it came about, Miss Smith.
I don't know if it was just something that I offered to do for her, but she also knew right away that she had to pay me
Don't tell me what
back.
she knew. What you have to tell me is how this loan came about, and if you don't remember, you don't remember.
It was just a conversation we had. I told her that I would pay it up front because no cosmetic surgeon is going to take payments, so I paid for it up front. Then, starting in January, she was supposed to pay me $100 a month until it was paid.
And how much did you pay the doctor?
$5,100.
You have proof of that?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see proof of that and proof where it came from your bank account.
I have my bank statements and proof of that.
Okay. I have $49.50.
I believe I paid $100 in cash on the day of the surgery as well.
Well,
but
it's
I don't have
$49.50 is what you can prove. Okay, and then what happens? She had the surgery?
She had the surgery done. Everything went well. I took care of her as well after the surgery. She went back to her husband, and the day that she left, she gave me $100 in cash, and about 3 to 4 weeks afterwards, she paid me a $300 check out of her and her husband's checking account, and I haven't received anything since. And then I hired a lawyer. And
what was
he
the
sent
money
her...
for that you sent her?
I was going to pay her back some of the money. It was never...
But that's what the money was for, that you sent to her?
Yes, yes.
How much of the $5,000 were you going to pay her back?
I had offered to pay her half. It was a gift. It was intended...
Don't tell me what it was.
Yes,
That's
okay.
for me to determine.
Okay, okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you put the check in the mail?
Because at the time we were on good terms. All I wanted to do was
Why didn't you just put it in the mail slot in her house?
Are you in a family dispute? Go to JudgeJudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay. When did you tell her you were going to pay her half?
It was after the surgery was already done. We were at Busch Gardens talking, and I said, well, you know, it was a lot of money. I said, I'd like to be able to go ahead and pay you half of it. And I decided afterwards that I was going back to my husband. She didn't want to hear of it. She says, well, I just want all my money.
Well, why didn't you pay her back half?
Your Honor, I did try to. I went to her house 3 times to pay her some money. She was not there 2 times. The 3rd time I went there, I offered her a $1,000 check. She refused to take the check.
You mean a $1,000 check in total satisfaction?
No, as in payment for the rest of the year, and then in January, I would continue payments at $100 a month until half of it was paid. Because I did offer to pay her half.
Well, I don't understand why you didn't just send her a check for half. Why you went to her house? Why didn't you just send it?
I went 3 times just so that I can give it to her personally.
So why didn't you put the check in the mail?
Because at the time we were on good terms. All I wanted to do was
Why didn't you just put it in the mail slot in her house? You were there already.
I was there, but I didn't want to leave money
sitting
sitting
You
out.
put it in the mail slot. Finished. I don't believe a word you say. You're full of baloney. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $45.50. Thank you very much. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, costume designer Diane Starling says her former live-in boyfriend, Frank Bartelli, owes for unpaid rent and a loan for tires. Frank says Diane's drinking forced him to move.
Come to order. All rise. Everybody get up. Be quiet. Thank you. Your Honor, it's case number 162 on the calendar in the matter of Starling versus Bartelli. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss Starling, Mr. Bartelli was your former live-in boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he owes you a whole bunch of money. He owes you some money for rent. He owes you some money for some court costs that you laid out for him. You want him to pay for new tires for your car. All in all, you're really annoyed with him. I gather that Mr. Bartelli moved out unceremoniously with no notice. Is that right, sir?
I feel I don't owe her the money.
No. You moved out unceremoniously, which means that you didn't have a discussion with her, you didn't sit down and talk to her, you just packed up your things, you decided you had enough, and you just left.
Your Honor, I just fed up with it. I don't feel I should have...
Just say yes. Just say yes. That's what you said here.
Nah, I don't feel it's right.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. I'm going to get to you in a second. All right, Miss Starling. I have to see if I'm playing now with a level playing field. Here we go, because I haven't asked you a question yet. When did you and Mr. Bartelli move into this apartment that you shared?
In October of 2003, Your Honor.
Had you lived together before?
Yes.
And when you moved into this apartment, did you both sign the lease?
Yes, we did.
Can
And I
I
have
see
a copy of that.
the lease?
I don't think I didn't sign the lease.
Oh, take me back to the family court, please. Okay, so, Mr. Bartelli, it is your statement, sir, that you did not sign the lease. Is that, you did not
I
sign
don't
the
remember
lease?
signing the lease.
Ah, that's a different thing. Shut up. I believe you said I didn't sign no lease. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a quote, because that was bad grammar. Now you say I don't remember signing the lease. Is that right, sir?
Yeah.
So then, Officer Byrd, would you please show Mr. Bartelli this witnessed signature on the lease?
It's your signature?
Yeah, but I don't remember signing it.
Mr. Bartelli?
You just don't remember.
Mr. Bartelli, that's possible that you don't remember signing it,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean you didn't sign it.
See, me and Miss Darling were together, and she sent roses and flowers to my office trying to get us back together. Then whenever I didn't reply to that, she took and sent me court papers.
Mr. Darling, I don't want to hear from you. I want him. He's dying to say this. So you know what my sense is? If I let him say this maybe once, maybe he'll get it out of his system so that when I ask him questions, he'll give me a relevant answer. All right? So, Mr. Bartelli, go to it.
Excuse me?
All I said to you was, sir, the fact that you don't remember signing it is belied by the fact that you did actually sign it in front of a witness. And you started to tell me about flowers and candy that she sent you. And I didn't see how those two things were connected in any way.
Well, me and Miss Darling used to drink, and we quit drinking. We moved to Orlando, and she had lost her job, and her son moved in with us. I feel I don't owe the money because I had to pay that money. And then she started drinking. That's why I left. And then when I left, she started sending flowers and stuff to my job, and then I didn't comply to that, and she sent me court papers.
Now he got it all out of his system, right? That's your whole story,
Yeah.
and you're sticking to it,
I feel
right?
I don't owe the money.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now we have to go do this my way, which is collect information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to make a ruling on her lawsuit. Do you understand, Mr. Bartelli?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I do carpentry work.
Okay. Which I assume you understand very well.
Mm-hmm.
Good. This is what I understand. I understand evidence. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you signed a lease on the apartment in October of 2003. And when did he move out?
April 3rd, 2004.
Now, you moved out, sir, because according to what you said in your mentally prepared statement, she started to drink again, you didn't want to live with her anymore.
Yeah.
So you want to tell me whether you discussed moving out, or you didn't discuss moving out, or you just packed your bags one day and left?
I just packed my bag and left.
If you just packed your bags one day and left, sir, you are still responsible, at least partially, on this lease. You signed a lease, obligating yourself to pay half the rent for a period of time. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you think that you shouldn't be held responsible for at least paying the rent until such time as she can secure someone else that she wants to live with, if that's at all possible?
Well, I feel I didn't ask her for money whenever she had lost her job and her son had moved in with us, and I didn't ask for money back for that. So why should I have to pay that?
How much
rent?
were you supposed to pay in rent, Mr. Bartelli?
The rent's $1,000 a month.
So your half was $500?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you expect her to cover the other $500 a month for the remainder of the lease?
Yeah, but see, I didn't ask her for money for the electric and food and stuff like that.
I paid her. Oh. Okay. All right. Now, you also claim that you helped him out when he was arrested a while ago by giving him $500 to pay for some bad checks that he had written. And Mr. Bartelli, you don't deny that you had gotten yourself into some criminal trouble.
No, I don't deny, but see, all of our money was in together.
No.
She might have paid that, but I paid this.
Listen!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So is what you're telling me, after you wrote this series of bad checks, you decided to open up a joint checking account with you?
No way.
Yeah, just a second. I just got a savings.
And later today,
I reached back and pulled the chair up so I could sit down. He had pulled that chair, and I fell down, and I yelled, "Philip, why did you move that chair?" He laughed.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diane Starling says ex-boyfriend Frank Bartelli owes for unpaid rent and a loan for tires. Frank says he and Diane shared their money.
Let me remind you what you said, sir, in your answer. You said, I don't deny that she gave me the money for these bad checks.
Yeah.
How did you pay her back for the jail bail money?
Well, she had borrowed the money from her brother. And like I said, we worked and all of her money was in one bank account. So she might have took the money out to pay that, but we took my money out to pay other bills. So all of her money was in the same account.
But you said that she borrowed that $500 from her brother.
Yeah, she paid her brother.
So if she borrowed that $500 from her brother, did you pay her brother back the $500?
Yeah, she sent checks to her brother.
She sent her checks to her brother for the $500.
Mm-hmm.
And the $500 was coming out of a bank account that you both pooled your money for household expenses. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
No, everything.
What's everything?
All of her money was in the same account. My whole check gets deposited, and hers did too.
Well, was this bad check money an expense that you anticipated?
No, this is all of her money was in the same account.
Try to listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Bartelli. When you wrote the bad checks, did you know you were going to have to pay them back?
Yes.
So why did you write them?
At the time, I didn't have no money, didn't have a choice.
So it was always your intention to pay back the money for the bad checks, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In what year did you write the bad checks?
2002.
And when did they finally catch up with you?
2003.
On what checking account did you write the bad checks?
That was out of my checking account.
Why didn't you use your joint account that you had with her?
Because we didn't have that account at that time.
So is what you're telling me after you wrote this series of bad checks, you decided to open up a joint checking account with you? No way.
No, just a savings. I just got a
way.
savings. I just got a savings account. She got a
So you
checking
didn't have a joint checking account?
No.
No.
Please.
All right. Now let's get to the tires. He used your truck, and after he left, you found the tires needed to be replaced.
They were bald.
They were
With
bald.
wires
Well,
showing
that's
this
your
much.
fault. Listen, Diane, darling, you let him use the truck, right?
Right. I didn't notice they were so bad.
Listen to me. Well, you should have noticed. Mr. Bartelli, I know that you don't feel as if you owe Miss Starling any money, but you do. You can't just decide that you are fed up and pack up your bags and move out, because that's immature and it's irresponsible, and it's sticking someone else with a big obligation that they didn't anticipate paying by themselves. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So you owe her $2,500 for the rent. She also helped you out by borrowing money from her brother, and you didn't pay her back. Despite all your speeches, you didn't pay her back. So I'm entering a judgment in the plaintiff's favor in the amount of $3,000. Do the right thing, Mr. Bartelli, that's all.
Parties are
Thank you.
excused. You may step out.
I think it went very well. I'm glad that Mr. Bartelli is being held accountable for what he did to me.
She just upset because I left her.
Well, I wanted to ask him to step outside, but he was too small.
She just left messages begging me to come back, and I wouldn't do it.
I missed him. He was a good guy, basically.
I hope we could be friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Elliott versus Worsham, step forward, please.
Plaintiff Sheila Elliott is suing casino owner Ken Worsham for pain and suffering due to an accident in his casino. Sheila says she fell to the ground when a worker removed a chair from underneath her during a game of Texas Hold'em.
Mr. Worsham, do you operate a casino? Is that what you do?
Yes.
Where is the casino?
Sacramento.
According to what I've read, Miss Elliott, you were playing some sort of a game, Texas Poker?
Texas Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em. I'm trying to figure out how this game was played, but I gather that there are 10 players to start with. Is that right, sir?
Normally there's 9.
And when one person leaves, they take away that spot, and it goes to fewer people and fewer people, almost like musical chairs. Miss Elliott was playing this Texas Hold'em, and according to you, you went to sit down, and one of the employees of the casino had removed the chair that you were going to sit on. Is that right?
At the time, the chair was there.
Well, when you went to sit down, the chair wasn't there.
Yeah, when I went to sit down, it was gone.
And you fell.
Yes.
And you want Mr. Worsham
Worsham.
to pay you $5,000.
Yes.
What time did you start to play Texas Hold'em?
I started there early in the afternoon.
What date? Can we date?
On the 2nd.
2nd of what?
Of January.
And what time did this incident happen when you fell?
It happened like, to my recollection, I would say 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Anybody have a different time and date?
Yes, it happened about 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
So she fell about 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
That's
How do you
correct.
know that, sir?
We had a tape of it, of the incident.
And that's what the tape indicates?
Yes.
Okay. Is that possible?
No, it happened before then. Now, what his tape is showing, it could be. I didn't see this tape. I asked to see the tape.
That's not what I asked you. I
Okay.
said, could it have been at 6:30?
No, I believe it was before 6:30.
Who was the employee who was moving around the chairs?
Mr. Philip Leong.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sheila Elliott says she was injured during a game of Texas Hold'em at Ken Warsham's casino. Sheila says a casino worker removed her chair while she was trying to sit down.
Miss Leon, you're an employee of Mr. Worsham's?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what time this incident happened?
I come and see play on the table and
What
around
time?
6:30.
You moved a chair, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me why you moved the chair?
Because got a player get off the table, so I get off the table. So I ask anybody want to move the chair. We have 10 seats.
Mr. Worsham, you're going to have to act as partial
Okay.
translator for me. I'm not following this.
Okay, well, he asked if anybody was going to move seats. And then when no one said they were going to move, then you take a chair out.
Okay. Is that what was basically happening? One chair was being taken away?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me what your version of these events
My
are.
version is it was late in the morning.
Okay, go ahead.
There were approximately about 6 to 7 players at the table, not 10.
Okay.
And not that many chairs.
Okay.
So what happened was Philip was reading a book for about maybe 30 to 40 minutes. So when I noticed that it was a few players and I had been sitting in this one particular seat for so long, I looked over at him reading the book. I said, Philip, can I move into that seat? He said, yeah, go ahead. Just like that. So it was me, a chair, and the third chair, the one I want to move into. So I didn't go behind the chairs. I came in front of the chairs. And I put my hand on the table like you normally do, as I do all the time. I reached back, because the chair, I felt the chair on the calf of my leg. I reached back to pull the chair up so I could sit down. No chair. He had pulled that chair immediately. And I yelled. I said, Philip, why did you move that chair? And he said, oh, and they all started laughing. He laughed. That's what made me so mad. And when I fell down, my fell on my left shoulder. And when I fell down, I felt something like in the back of my neck, back of my head, like, and they was going to pull me up with this arm. And I said, no.
Miss Elliott, after you fell down, did you find a chair?
No, the chair wasn't there.
Shh. Did you find a chair to sit and continue playing that morning?
After they got me up?
Yes.
Yes, yes, I did.
And how many hours did you continue to play after you fell on your behind?
Now,
just a second. Just answer my question. How many hours did you continue to play?
I stayed for several hours. I stayed there.
How many?
Oh, I
1
stayed
hour,
all, no.
2
no,
hours?
No, I stayed all that
3
day.
hours.
All
All day?
Yes.
And I read your papers, and you said that after you fell, however, you felt a little woozy, and you went to the bathroom, and you took a Vicodin.
Yes, right.
Where'd you get the Vicodin from?
I carry Vicodins with me all the time.
For what?
Because I had back surgery back in '92.
So
and
you
when I have back
92
problems,
was 12 years ago.
I have back problems, and ever since I had the back surgery, I've been on pain medication.
So you take pain medication for your back?
Not frequently now, but I just carry it with me in
Carry
case.
it with you just in case you
Yes,
fall.
if I get, yes.
And
not
you sat
in
and
case
played,
I fall.
Miss
no.
Elliott, and you sat and played all day that day. Is
Waiting
that right?
for him to come in.
I don't care what. Listen,
Yes,
Miss Elliott,
okay.
listen to me very carefully, my dear.
All right.
This is not windfall day. What Mr. Worsham said to you when you approached him, because you waited for him all day instead of going to a hospital if you were injured because you couldn't move your shoulder, because your shoulder was all out and your back is out and you're taking Vicodin. You go to a hospital. You go to a doctor. You don't continue to play Texas Hold'em. Elliott, Mr. Leong, didn't purposely pull a chair out from under you. He wasn't playing a Halloween prank. You weren't injured. You only get paid if you're injured, even if he was negligent. And people who are injured don't stick around for a whole day and play Texas Hold'em, Miss Elliott. Do we understand each other?
I understand you.
Very good. Now, you offered her $500?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you offer her $500?
Well, she kept asking me what I was going to do for her. And I told her nothing. And she came back in and asked me again. And I finally said, okay, I'll give you $500. And she said, is that all I get? And I said, yes, that's all I'll give you. And she left again, went back and played cards.
What time was this? Do you recall?
This was another day. This was about 3 days later. In fact, I believe it was on a Monday or Tuesday.
You mean she came back, her injuries resolved, and she came back 3 days later?
Yes.
Is that right?
I came back to see him, not to play cards.
But you did play cards.
I wait while I was waiting for him. Yes.
Miss Elliott, courts have important business to take care of. It is not the role of courts to allow people to abuse them with nonsense lawsuits. Your lawsuit is nonsense. Okay. You were not injured. If you were injured,
yes,
you would.
Was.
No. If you were injured, a person of your age knows that if you fall on the floor and if you're injured, you don't sit around all day playing cards. You take care of your injuries. That's what you do. You chose not to do that. And you chose to come back a couple of days later to see him again, to ask him how much money he was going to give you. And while you were waiting, you weren't injured so much that you couldn't sit down and play a few games of Texas Hold'em or wherever else you were going to play. So, Miss Elliott, this is not a windfall day against Mr. Worsham. He offered you $500. You should have taken it. You didn't. He's not offering it anymore.
I didn't come back to him.
Dismissed. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Here's assistant Michelle Ayanna Johnson is suing music producers Terrence Ireland and Jason Pittman for the return of her music and sexual harassment. Terrence and Jason claim the music is theirs to keep.
That's case number 198 on the calendar in the matter of Johnson versus Ireland Pittman. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Which one is Ireland? Good, so I know where we are. Ms. Johnson, it is your claim that you paid the defendants to produce a music demo for you.
That is correct.
And you paid them, and they didn't deliver what was promised.
That is
I don't
correct.
quite understand all of the technical stuff that you put in here. But Mr. Ireland and Mr. Pittman say that you never fully paid, that you don't get some sort of a master tape. This is going to get very complicated. And since you didn't fully pay them, you got everything that you're entitled to. That close enough?
That's very close.
So, how did you find them, and what was this contract that you entered into?
I worked with Terrence Ireland at a group home as a teacher's assistant, and he listened to my demo that
So
said...
you had a demo?
Yes, I had a demo with another producer. And Terrence let me know that he also was a producer and that I should let him listen to my music. He then listened to it and said that he would like to work with me. He invited me down to his studio to meet his cousin Jason in hopes that we would be able to work together.
Go ahead.
As of right now, I am the copyright owner and the author of the lyrics and the melody to the 5 songs that I created with the defendants from November 2003 up until May of 2004. Now, there is no written contract, only a verbal agreement which states a work-for-hire situation in which I pay a flat fee of $500 per song to the defendants and also have the use of their studio and their musical backings. They have no claim to copyright, they have no claim to royalties, and they have no claim to my master. Now,
How do I know that?
Say again?
How do I know that?
Because I created the songs. I also have the copyright material.
Why don't you have a contract?
He told me that I did not need a contract, that all I would need to do is give him $250 up front and $250 in the end for the songs
Doesn't sound
created.
very professional to me, Miss Johnson.
No, which is why I'm no longer wanting their services. That is correct. They raised the price of the 6th song, which I
Who is
started
this?
creating. This here is a musical director of the Grammys and of the Turtles. He also listened to my demo and told me also that it is an unfinished project. And in order for me to finish my project with another producer, they would need my digital formatted copy or master of my music in order to help me. If you'd like to...
Are you following all of this?
Sure.
Why don't you explain it to me?
Okay. She paid them to produce her stuff. They have her master.
Right.
This guy here is telling her that she needs the digital master in order for another producer to help finish out her demo.
How much did you pay them altogether?
I paid them $2,500 for the 5 songs.
You have proof that you paid them $2,500?
I have proof for the 3 songs that I created. They're holding the other 2 receipts.
What'd you pay them in cash?
Yes, that is correct.
How much did she pay you?
She paid us all together. Let's see here. 500, 1,000, 1,500. Let's see. 16, 17, 17, 18, 19. $1,900, Your Honor. Sorry, I didn't have it all added up, but I do have all the receipts.
He says you're paying $1,900.
That is incorrect.
Show me proof that you paid him $25.
I don't have proof. They're keeping the other 2 receipts.
Well, how am I supposed to tell? He says you gave him $1,900.
Well, I have a disc of the 5 songs that I created with all 5 songs on them. They would not hand these songs over to me unless I had paid for the songs in which I created.
Well, what is it that you want from them? A master?
I want the master, the digital file that they hold in their possession, and also funds to finish my project. My project is not mixed nor mastered.
So you want them to give you what they got so far, plus give you more money?
Plus give me the money in order to finish. I also
She's not going to do that. I got to do that.
I have to finish.
Well,
right now,
finish it.
Right now, the project is incomplete. On
Then
May
find
24th,
somebody to complete it.
Well, on May 24th, Jason sexually harassed me and told me that he works for music and that he could get me a deal if only I slept with him.
That was
a
very nasty thing for him to say. If you said that, that was a very nasty thing for you to say. Let's move on.
I have the 5 songs in which I created. They're withholding the other 2 receipts from me for sexual favors.
Now I don't get it.
What?
Now I don't get it.
I didn't get it either. Still don't get it. I want to get beyond this sexual harassment business that you tacked on to this. You want your master.
I want my master, and I want the funds that I need in order to finish the project.
They're not going to pay you that, Miss Johnson.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Good. Well, that's not going to... Listen to me. That's not going to happen. Okay, Mr. Pittman, listen to me very carefully, sir. These are her songs, correct?
No.
They're not her lyrics?
No.
They're not her music?
No.
Whose are they?
Ours.
You're telling me that you wrote the music?
That's right. Exactly.
Really?
Right.
Who wrote the lyrics?
I did, and Terry did. She actually went out and copywrote the music.
Behind our back.
Behind our backs.
Without our consent.
You don't know anything about that, right, sir?
No.
Because she says she wrote the music. They say they wrote the music.
She wrote the lyric and the melody for the songs.
How do you know?
She told me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, when somebody wants to copyright an idea, they don't copyright the idea after they've already let it out of the bag.
Well, I'm the only one that has the copywritten information.
And I'm telling you that that was a bit of slick maneuvering.
And later today...
You jealous type?
No, but...
A little bit?
Sure, isn't everybody?
I don't know. Depends upon if you've got something to be jealous about.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Ayanna Johnson claims music producers Terrence Ireland and Jason Pittman owe for the return of her music and for sexual harassment.
Now, you don't know who wrote the music. She says she wrote the music. They say they wrote the music.
May I say something, please, about that?
Sure.
There's 2 elements to a song. The lyric and the melody is the copyrightable item.
Yes.
You cannot copyright an arrangement.
No, I understand that.
Okay, so
that I understand.
She claims to me
that she wrote that.
The lyric
I don't
and
care
the
what you
melody.
believe. What you believe is irrelevant to
me.
She said to you, I wrote the lyrics and the melody.
Yes.
He says that he wrote the lyrics.
Lyric and melody. Okay.
I want to see the sheet music when it was written. Let me see. Don't you have that? Somebody have that?
I have the copywritten with the Library of Congress that I submitted.
When?
On March of this year, 2004.
Well, when did you record it?
I recorded it from November of 2003.
Well, then what difference does it make if you sent to the Library of Congress something after you made the recordings?
Because I was determined that I was finished working with him.
Listen to me. If you write something, and if you know, Miss Johnson, that what you can do in order to solidify your position as the author of a piece of music, that you copyright it and you sent it to the Library of Congress, why didn't you send it before you recorded it?
Because when the defendants had the beats, I then wrote the music to the beats, so I didn't have the words when I came to the studio.
Just a second. When you say that they wrote the beats is a melody.
No, the guitar and the instruments. I wrote the way the song was supposed to be arranged.
Nobody is ever going to be able to tell what happened here because the 3 of you, semi-professionals, don't have a contract. And I'm not going to be able to tell who came in with the music and who didn't. You copyrighted something, but you copywrote it after you recorded it. So if you write the words to music and you want to copyright the words that you wrote to music, you copyright them by sending them into the Library of Congress.
Which is what I did.
You did it after you recorded them.
Well, I was still recording. This shows in March. This date here shows the March
Listen to
of
me, you said you
2004.
started in November.
I started with them in November. That
Right,
is
you
correct.
started with them in November.
Right.
Miss Johnson.
And it took about a month and a
Miss
half
Johnson,
to finish a song.
I cannot tell who wrote this music.
Well, I'm the only one that has the copywritten information.
And I'm telling you that that was a bit of slick maneuvering, because you already had recorded them. You already in March decided not to work with them anymore. So you said, bet you they didn't copyright it. So you sent in your copyright to the Library of Congress. And I'm telling you, if you were operating in good faith, you would have done it before, since you knew how to do it.
Amen.
Listen, when somebody wants to copyright an idea, they don't copyright the idea after they've already let it out of the bag. They do it beforehand.
Well, Andy Kahn heard my music, and he told me also that my project was not finished. But after
Listen,
the
Miss
fifth
Johnson,
song...
I can't help you, my dear. Can't help you. Case is dismissed. That's what you have. You have 2 demos.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy, she made the right decision.
Well, I think it was a total sham.
She came in a I Dream of Jeannie costume with finger cymbals and tried to perform a dance for us in order to take our minds off the pocket.
That's just their dream and their fantasy.
We got a little rap for y'all. Bust it out. Check it out. Yo. You can call me Jason or even Perry Mason. You got to pay whether you recording or you hating. You want to dance with Jason, but you ain't got the skill. We went on Judge Judy, yeah, we kill.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Utico versus Corona, step forward.
Accountant Michelle Utico is suing her ex-boyfriend, plumber Stephen Corona, for ramming her Toyota 4Runner with his truck. Stephen claims Michelle is making up a story.
Miss Utico, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he got angry with you one evening and he intentionally damaged your truck. And Mr. Corona says that while he was angry that evening, he didn't do anything to your car, right?
That's correct.
Tell me when Mr. Corona damaged your car.
That evening, after I dropped him off at home.
What evening?
May 21st a.m., May 20th, midnight.
And where had you been?
We were first at my house, and we got into an argument, and then I dropped him off at his house.
What'd you get into an argument about?
Just general things, what couples normally get in arguments about. I mean...
I usually get into an argument with my husband about how many pairs of shoes I bring home.
Okay.
So what were you arguing about?
You know, I don't recall what the argument was about, but we got into one, and I dropped him off at home like he wanted to go. He wanted to leave, so I took him home.
What time?
It's probably about 10 or 11 at night.
And where did you go when you dropped him off?
I went over to his house. Visit
What's his name?
This is my friend Frank. And I was there with a couple of friends. We were sitting out on the front porch, and then that's when he showed up.
And Mr. Corona, you acknowledged that you came looking for her.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what happened when he came looking for you?
Well, he had asked for me to get into my truck and go home, to let's go home.
When he told you to get into your truck and let's go home, was he in his car or out of his car?
He was out of his car at the time. He parked next to my car on the street, and he got off of his car and pretty much demanding for me to leave. And with the look in his eyes it pretty much looked violent, and I did not want to go, so I didn't.
He told you to get in the car and go home?
Yeah.
And what did you say to him?
Well, I was going to go, but then I turned around and I said, no, I'm not going.
What did you say to him?
I didn't say anything to him.
When he said get in the car, did you tell him okay?
Yeah, I said okay. Yeah,
well, that's what I'm asking
you.
you. That's what I'm asking. It's not a hard question. Okay. I'm just trying to follow the events. What happened starting from once upon a time and ending with the end. So he got out of his car and he said, get in the car, I want you to go home. He says he acknowledges he said that to you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said, okay.
Right.
And he says that that's what you said. You said you would follow him, right?
She said she was going to go home to meet her there.
But then you decided not to go home.
Yes, I decided not to go home.
So you turned around and you said to your friend...
Right.
Frank.
Correct.
Frank, could you sit up, please? Sit up. Good. Thank you, Frank. You said to Frank and his friends, I'm not going with him.
That's correct.
And you went back to the porch.
Right.
So far, your stories are exactly the same. But here's where we come to a fork in the road.
Right.
What happened next, Miss Utico?
Well, he got upset. He got into his car, and he wrecked into my car, which was not good enough for him, so he sped off and made a U-turn and came back around and wrecked even more into my car. And then
what do you mean wrecked? I don't know.
He wrecked his car into my car.
You mean he hit his car into your truck?
Yes, he hit his car into mine. So.
And he did that twice?
He did it twice.
Mr. Corona,
Yes, ma'am.
I've read your answer, and you flatly deny that this is the way it happened. So I have a few questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Corona.
Yes.
What did you have an argument with Miss Utico about that evening?
We were arguing about her staying home and her wanting to go out, and I was trying to get her to stay home, but she insisted on leaving. She told me that she had to get up to go to work in the morning. That's why she wanted to drop me off, because usually I stay the night there. And it was kind of odd that she wanted me to go home, because she actually picked me up, and usually I drive over there, but she picked me up earlier, and then she dropped me off. You know, she insisted on dropping me off.
I don't, excuse me, ma'am.
So, you cared about her a lot?
Sure, very much so.
You the jealous type?
No, but
a little bit?
Sure, isn't everybody?
I don't know. Depends upon if you've got something to be jealous about. So let me understand this, Mr. Corona. Your girlfriend tells you she's got to get up early in the morning and she drives you home.
That's what she said.
You've got something in the back of your head that says, what's your first name?
Steve.
Steve. Steve, something's not kosher here. Because I usually spend the night, so I'm going to get into my car and go and look for her. Right? That's what you did.
Exactly.
And you're driving around, and something said, why don't you go over to old Frank's house?
Mm-hmm.
So you had the feeling maybe she was over there fooling around with Frank, right?
Possibly.
Well, you were going to give it a look-see anyway, right?
Sure.
I mean, is that what happened? Sure, that's where your car ended up.
Sure.
And then, sure enough, your girlfriend of a year and a half who had to get up early to go out to do something the next day, there she was, sitting, chilling with Frank on the porch. And you double parked your car next to hers.
Exactly next to hers on the side, parallel.
And you got out of the car and you said, I want you to get into the car and come home with me. Right?
And she said
and
yes.
she said?
She said yes.
Yes.
She said, I'm going to follow you. I'll meet you at my house.
I'm going to follow you home. I'm going to meet you home. And then she didn't.
That's right.
And then, according to your answer, you went home and went to sleep.
That's right.
That's wrong.
First, before that, before I went home, I went to her house and I waited in the front for her at her house.
Just a second. So you actually followed her direction and you went home.
Yeah. No.
How long did you sit in your car in front of her house waiting for her?
About 20 minutes.
Till he broke into my house.
Don't speak. 20 minutes?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes. And while you were waiting this 20 minutes, did you start to get upset?
No. No.
You started to get, just a second, you started to get, if you weren't upset, did you start to get hungry?
I was.
Shh. Did you start to get hungry? Tired?
Yeah, tired, yes.
So you were tired?
Yes, I was tired.
And you said, forget it.
Exactly.
She made a fool out of me.
I'm done with it.
I'm finished with her.
That's right.
She made a real fool out of me this time because she made a fool out of me earlier in the evening when she drove me home. And she was maybe going to have somebody else come and stay over, but it wasn't going to be me that night. And now I went over there and made a fool out of myself in front of other people. And she made a bigger fool out of me, so you went home and went to sleep.
I threw in the towel.
Could I see the pictures of the car, please? You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Well, you made the report the very next day.
Right.
What happened? Did they ever come to see you, Mr. Corona? The police?
No, ma'am.
They never came to see you?
No, ma'am.
You live in Los Angeles?
Yes.
They're probably real busy. Mr. Corona, I'm going to ask a question, but you don't even have to answer, Mr. Corona. I want you to look at my face. It's a nice face, right? You wouldn't lie to this face, Mr. Corona, would you? So I don't even want you to answer me, sir. Did it feel good? Did it feel good? It's going to cost you $2,284.56. I hope it felt that good. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Khi mà chúng ta muốn đến với đất nước Singapore để làm việc thì cần phải chuẩn bị các cái hồ sơ cũng như là các cái thủ tục để mà chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động sang đất nước Singapore. Thì về các cái hồ sơ cũng như là các cái thủ tục khi mà chúng ta đăng ký để đi xuất khẩu lao động sang Singapore thì chúng ta cần phải chuẩn bị các cái loại giấy tờ. Thì thứ nhất đó là về cái hộ chiếu, thứ hai đó là về cái sơ yếu lý lịch, thứ ba đó là các cái loại giấy khai sinh, thứ tư là sổ hộ khẩu, thứ năm là chứng minh nhân dân, thứ sáu là các cái loại bằng cấp liên quan, và phải có thứ bảy đó là phải có cái cam kết của gia đình hoặc là của người bảo lãnh. Chúng ta cần phải chuẩn bị 2 ảnh chụp toàn thân 9x12 và phải chuẩn bị thêm 6 ảnh thẻ 4x6. Đó là các cái hồ sơ, các cái thủ tục mà chúng ta cần phải chuẩn bị khi mà chúng ta muốn đến với đất nước Singapore để chúng ta làm việc. Thì những cái thủ tục, những cái hồ sơ là một cái việc cực kỳ là quan trọng. Dù là chúng ta đi đến với đất nước nào, khi mà chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động thì các cái hồ sơ cũng như các cái thủ tục thì là một cái việc làm cực kỳ là quan trọng. Để cho một cái bước khởi đầu của chúng ta được thuận lợi thì các cái hồ sơ cũng như các cái thủ tục thì chúng ta cần phải chuẩn bị đầy đủ để chúng ta có thể sang đi một cái đất nước nào đó mà chúng ta lựa chọn để chúng ta đi xuất khẩu lao động để chúng ta làm việc. Xin cảm ơn tất cả các bạn luôn theo dõi kênh của tôi. Hãy theo dõi kênh của tôi để biết các cái vấn đề về xuất khẩu lao động như hiện nay. Xin cảm ơn tất cả các bạn.